comments to 5 minutes, although I will also consider requests for additional time to address the board. Also, it is not necessary to repeat statements or views of a previous speaker. It's sufficient to simply state that you agree. The board values input from the public as part of its consumer protection mission and welcomes public comment during this section of the agenda. However, board members cannot engage in dialogue with those who offer public comment due to constraints imposed on us by law. Christy will keep us honest. The law prohibits CSLB from substantially discussing or voting on any matter brought up during public comment. If a member of the public wants the board to discuss a topic not listed on today's meeting agenda, you can ask the board to consider placing the issue on the agenda for future meetings. If you have an application, complaint, or disciplinary charges pending before the board, we ask that you not discuss the details of your case or pending complaint. That's because board members will be the judges, and by law are not permitted to receive evidence or information that is not part of administrative record in the case. Members of the public can offer general comments during this time for items not on the agenda. If your comment is related to a specific agenda item, you may want to wait until that item comes before discussion. We'll ask for public comment before taking action on any item. If we forget, Christy will remind us, to ask for public comment, please raise or ask to make a comment after board discussion, and you will be recognized. The board cannot take action on any items not listed on the agenda. Now, are there any individuals here who wish to address the board for something that is not on the agenda? Yes, sir. Come up, state your, well, they don't have to state who they are. Feel free to state who you are, though.
Thanks, appreciate it. My name is Brandon Lopez. I am the Assistant Director for the Center for Contract Compliance. We're based in Southern California. Our organization is a nonprofit organization. We monitor public works projects to make sure contractors comply with mainly the prevailing wage law. We also make sure they comply with certain apprenticeship laws. And for the last couple of years, we've got into filing and branching out and trying to catch contractors violating other type of laws. Probably one of the most notable is workers' compensation. We work with Riverside DA, the Orange County DA, and we're trying to reach out to private insurance companies now to get them involved when we're investigating contractors. When it comes to wages, we work for the Labor Commissioner's Office. We worked for them for years and years now. I don't know half of their cases, but at one point, half of the money they collected on public works jobs came from our organization, cases that we've submitted to them ourselves. And they collect about $3 million a year just of our cases alone. And we would like to not start, but to continue working with CSLB. There was an individual down in Southern California named Paige Roush, and she would take our complaints. We would check a job, see a contractor either with the wrong classification, no workers' comp, and we file complaints with Paige. After the fact, submit payroll records. We would call or file a complaint with the SWIFT unit in Norwalk. And I work with a gentleman over there, and we work hand in hand where I'll check a job in the morning just so he doesn't waste his time to go out there in the afternoon. And he would go out there and try to cite a contractor for working without workers' comp or working without a license or working outside the classification that he's supposed to be working in. And we had a meeting before this with Registrar to try to increase some of that participation between our organizations. And I think it's going to be a really good thing. And if there's any discussion about increasing enforcement in public works construction, there is a lot of help from, I know our staff would be, absolutely pleased to help out in any kind of effort that is made. And then I know there's a lot of other organizations that would certainly appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that information. Is there anyone else who would like to approach the board on something not on the agenda? Very well then. Are there any board members who have an item they'd like to place on a future agenda meeting? No. Do any members of the public have anything that they'd like to place on a future agenda meeting? Okay. Aaron, could you reach up there and turn off that microphone, please? Thank you. All righty. It looks like it's changed a little bit, because usually there is board member comment. So is that on the agenda? Not on my script? No? Okay, so we can't do it. All right, so agenda item C, update regarding options for increasing the pay level for the Cslb Registrar. At our March 13th board meeting, the board authorized a two-person advisory committee to determine, justify, and make recommendations to the full board on the subject of increasing the pay of the registrar. Linda Clifford and Susan Granzella were appointed to that committee. Linda, from what I understand, you have an update on your efforts.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have begun the work. We've had a number of meetings, and we've gathered a lot of information, including gotten really good information from the DCA staff that were extremely helpful to us. We were delayed because of the process of the board, what the board was going through, and so we have 2 or 3 other meetings that need to take place. It's important that the historical information be really, really accurate so that when the board considers this, they have all of it in front of them. And so we're prepared to estimate that we should have the meetings soon and that we will have the report ready in the September or next, we're assuming it's going to be in September, board meeting.
Thank you for your very important work on this matter. Do any board members have questions on this at all? This is informative only. No. Does anyone from the public have any questions on this matter? Very well. We move on to our next order of business, legislation. I don't know if you have the same meeting packets we do, but that would be page 15. And I would ask Committee Chair Nancy Springer to make her presentation. We do have what looks to be several motions. Are these motions that come out of committee?
Most of them.
Okay, so you'll let us know when it's a motion out of committee and when we need a motion from the floor. Thank you. Nancy, where you at? There
Okay,
you go.
right here. All right, thank you. So I'd like to start out real quick with a couple of comments, and that is I'd like to thank Dave Diaz board member David Diaz for stepping up and playing committee chair when I couldn't make the last meeting, as well as board member Ed Lang for making for a quorum, so thank you for that. And then additionally, I just want to thank Laura and her staff for the hard work that goes into this. Sometimes we're working on this at the very last minute, and I'll kind of give them last minute things to throw in there, and they always come through, and it's a lot of work and a lot of effort, so thank you and your staff. And we've also been sharing Laura with licensing, so she's been doing dual roles, so thank you, Laura, for and that is that there's a typo on page 18 where it says John Hancock versus which should read Joan Hancock. So with that correction, like to know if there are any comments from the board before we move forward with that. Seeing none. Are there any public comment? Okay, I need a motion. I'm sorry. So it was on page 18. It's under the second paragraph there in the motion. In the last, second last sentence there. John should read Joan.
Second.
Any public comment on the motion? Yes.
Second.
Any public comment on that motion? Okay. Aaron, can you do roll call, please?
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Wait, excuse me one second. Don't we have board comment somewhere in there, or did I miss it?
She asked for board comment, but if you missed it, go ahead
I
and
missed it.
ask a question.
Christy, is this what we were chatting about earlier? Is that where we are right now? No. This is totally different? Yes. Okay. Okay. All right, I'm good. Back to the vote. Back to the order.
Business.
Yep.
Okay, Aaron, call roll again, please.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David Dillatore.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton. Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
So there were two handouts before we move forward. One was the table of bills. It would look like this. And then there is a Assembly Bill 1278 amended text. So you should have those as we move forward. All right, agenda item D2. This is starts on page 2728. And this is to review and discussion for possible action regarding positions on the 2017 proposed legislation. So item sub AB is Assembly Bill 710 by Wood. That's on page 28, and this is the bill in regards to Department of Consumer Affairs board meetings. This bill requires the boards to meet at least once every other year in rural California. The Legislative Committee recommends a watch position on this bill. So are there any comments from board members? Seeing none. Do any members of the public have any comment on this item? Okay, since this recommendation comes from a committee of the board, it comes to you as a fully formed motion. It needs no first or second prior to a vote. So I guess we ask public comment again at this point, before we move to the vote? Okay, any public comment before we move to the vote? All right, so,
Through the chair?
Yeah. Yes.
Can it, and maybe this is also to Christie, we have fully formed motions on a lot of bills here. I think there's been two changes. 1278 has been amended from the most recent meeting, and it looks like Senator Hill's balcony inspection has been tabled. Would it be appropriate to move all of these we could take 1278 off and talk about that as necessary and seek comment on all of them at once?
Unfortunately, we got to take them one at a time.
That's right.
So are we waiting for a motion to?
Yeah.
We follow Robert's Rules of Order, and Robert's Rules of Order says that when the committee of the whole, which is a committee of board members, passes a motion to the full body, there doesn't need to be a first and a second, because you've already had more than two board members move it to the board. So you don't need to do a first and a second when it comes from a board committee. You just vote on that straight-up position which they're offering, we're recommending, which is watch.
So then,
Just roll call.
and the
Yeah.
public has the ability to comment on the item, and then after the fully formed motion, they have the opportunity to comment on the fully formed motion as well.
Correct.
So there's two nuts at the
at this point, we're going to move forward with roll call on the motion to watch.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David Dillatore.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton. Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
So to take Board Member Albanese's comment on speeding it up, if it's a fully formed motion, how about you make the motion and then people can ask the question, because I would assume that the board has already read this and maybe the public has not. Let's try that. Okay.
Okay, so the next item is on page 32, AB 996 by Cunningham, the Contractor State License Board website, workers' comp information for putting a search function on the website. The motion is that the legislative committee recommends a watch position. So are there any comments from the board members? Seeing none. Any comments from the public? Okay. So, roll call on the motion?
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzello. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton. Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Okay, so, item C8, Assembly Bill 1005 by Calderon. This item has been tabled. So at this point, we will need a motion and a second to table the item. So,
If I could just clarify, the item was held in Appropriations Committee on the suspense file, so it's no longer active for this year. So that's why we're asking to table it.
So the request, there isn't a recommendation from the committee, or there is one?
There was a recommendation to watch the bill, so the substitute motion would be to table the item.
Okay, so you will need to do a first and a second if you want to table this item.
But if it's tabled and appropriate, it's dead. Our action is irrelevant.
Right, but the committee's brought something to...
Motion to table.
we have a second?
You had a motion and a second already?
All right, so, public comment on the motion? Okay, roll call?
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran.
Aye.
Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzello. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton. Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Next item is on page 44, and this is Assembly Bill 1070 by Gonzalez. It's the contract solar energy system one. This one, we already had a recommendation from the committee to, I'm sorry, on this one, this was a watch. I'm sorry, the committee made a recommendation to position watch. Any board member have comments? Pastor.
Madam Chair, I just had a comment on page 47 of the, I guess, the explanation here, the analysis. And basically, there's a comment here by committee recommendation and comments. And I was just interested in maybe Laura, you may have a little comment or explanation of the last sentence there concerning the discouragement of settlement of complaints because of the disclosure of the complaint to the public.
So the bill proposes a different standard, well, I guess I should, under the Contractor State License Law now, we have a specific disclosure standard for complaints, and complaints where we find evidence of merit, and then all formal actions are disclosed for a specified period of time. So this bill creates a different standard for the disclosure of complaints against what are called solar energy contractors or solar contractors. So all the complaints would be disclosed, so we'd be setting up a different standard for one particular type of contractor. So I have expressed the concern to the author's office about treating licensees differently. And then I've been speaking to the committee that will be analyzing this in the legislature to express the same concern, that it would probably be more appropriate to have one standard for all licensees.
Yeah, I understand. I was just concerned about the that it would discourage settlement of complaints. I really didn't understand why that would impact the settlement of complaints.
Well, so sometimes people now will settle complaints because of what the disclosure policy is and for the limitation on disclosure. Now, more information would be disclosed for these type of complaints and for different time periods. So they'd be less likely maybe to settle because there's no incentive.
One thing I did notice that was in the disclosure of the complaints, the contractors and the zip code. And one area that I thought was important to include, and they have included it, was the type of complaint or the nature of the complaint. I think that's a good thing to do because not if they are going to disclose the complaint, consumers can actually see what the nature of that complaint. It just couldn't be a misunderstanding. It could be a misrepresentation by, say, for example, a salesperson that might help the contractor know that, hey, maybe the people that they're hiring to do the sales is saying something that they shouldn't be saying. So I thought that, to that extent, I thought the type of the complaint that's being disclosed, or the nature of the complaint, which is the same thing, would help the consumer see more clearly, be more transparent, and just saying that there's a complaint against this contractor. I think that's a little fairer to say. That's my comment.
Okay. I'll also add one more comment. Obviously different than what we do. So I've recommended to the author's office that they have that authority rest with CSLB rather than the department. The department doesn't really do that type of investigation anyway, and it would make more sense for it to be at CSLB.
Absolutely.
Christie?
So I just echo what Ms. Zuniga said. I think that.
Excuse
the
me,
prob-
Counselor.
Yes?
Rick, can you do something about the sound system? Not only does it echo, but I can't hear what she's saying.
Really?
So, I mean, maybe you guys can fix it as we're talking and kind of, because I can't hear a word she's saying.
You can't hear me?
No, it's like, yeah.
It's echoed.
Okay.
Try your best, and then he'll fix it on the fly.
Okay, so I think the problem that I'm seeing here is that the overlapping jurisdiction issue that Ms. Zuniga raised is going to be a problem for us, because the department under this provision would have the authority to receive and resolve complaints regarding solar contractors. Well, that's not an area that the department has authority to regulate in. They have the director has general authority to intercede in all consumer matters by way of equitable relief and lawsuits and that sort of thing, but the licensure of the contractors is vested within the authority of this board. So it sets up a conflict between these two different officers, and I think also the department is not currently staffed to address all these things, so there would be a problem and a conflict in that regard. In addition, it also covers solar energy system companies, which we don't, if they don't do construction, we don't typically, we don't have authority to regulate. So there's a problem there, and the different reporting standard, complaint reporting standard.
Christy, try turning off the mic and talking without them.
My only concern is that
I do have a question. This seems serious to me. I mean, this isn't like a minor issue. First of all, we don't certainly want to set a precedent, but it doesn't work. I mean, everything we've heard from both Laura and Christy, it doesn't work. So is there a reason
What
why
doesn't work?
we can't,
What,
What they've put here doesn't work. So I don't know why we're watching it. Is there a reason why we're not opposing it?
Well,
One thing, go ahead.
I would say, the board certainly could. Last year, you supported similar legislation. It didn't quite have these same issues, but the board in general has been interested in having increased disclosure in this area. I think that's the reason we went with watch and not support because of the technical problems, but, you know, certainly whatever the board would like to do today.
I think these technical problems are serious, and I think you could figure out how to get the disclosure situation done, right? I mean, we could figure that out, so.
You could do it like a support if amended position, if you like the idea, because you did support AB 2693 last year that includes new disclosure requirements for people who have financed their solar energy system through a property tax assessment process, like PACE or HERO. So it would be good if you have one element of the industry that already has to have disclosure requirements for their contracts, have it also apply to that part of the industry that has leases or other forms of financing. Because right now, there is part of the industry that uses property tax assessments to finance solar energy systems that do have more stringent disclosure requirements. So this segment, this piece of legislation is intended to cover those that have leases, that sell directly, or other financing options. And so it's a good concept, I believe, in terms of consumer protection, but it does have these issues.
Okay, so this came to us as a fully formed motion,
Correct.
so we need to amend the fully formed motion.
Well, you could vote it down and then do a new motion. That would be your option.
So I'm going to move to vote it down.
Well, we'll just have the vote and vote against it. So everyone understands, it sounds like this is a bill that we want to participate in. We want to maybe do a soft oppose as long as we get to work with it instead of a watch. So the motion is to watch. We're going to call for the vote. And if you want the new motion, it says we're going to work with them and be active in it, vote no on this motion. If you don't care, vote yes. All right, go ahead, Aaron.
Kevin Albanese,
No.
Did you ask for public comment first?
Oh, I
Okay.
apologize.
So we'll open it to public comment. Are there any public comment before we move forward with the vote? Seeing none? Go ahead, Aaron.
Kevin Albanese,
Nope.
Augie Beltran,
No.
Linda Clifford,
No.
David De La Torre,
No.
Susan Granzella, Pastor Herrera,
no,
Ed Lang,
No.
Mike Layton,
No.
Marla Richardson,
No.
Paul Shafino, Johnny Simpson, Nancy Springer.
No.
Motion fails.
So can we take a motion now?
Yes. Nancy, go
Right.
ahead and call for
I would
the new
entertain
motion.
a motion, somebody to entertain a motion?
I feel pretty strongly about this. I'd like to be oppose unless amended, and, I mean, rather than say support unless amended, because,
Support if amended.
right, I'd like to say oppose unless amended.
Oppose unless amended is the,
Yes. Leave it the chair. Laura, just going back to what we've talked about before in terms of candidly, having support of legislators for what we try to do and try to accomplish, is it a better approach to go with the support as amended than it is oppose?
it might be a little bit better. I mean, I have communicated concerns already to the author's office, and I think we might have better luck communicating them. I've talked to the consultant that's analyzing it for the next committee hearing. Support if amended may sound a little bit nicer.
Just thinking.
Turn on your mic or try.
Truth is, I would support the motion or I would support the bill if it were, that conflict didn't exist. So, and those things have a way of working themselves out in committee. So I would think that support, if amended, would be a proper thing.
Marlo?
So my question was, in terms of if we do support it, is there like a lack of education just with the author in terms of who actually would be the responsible entity? Or is there a way that we can support the current bill and just get with the agency that they've listed and do some sort of agreement with them on how it's going to be dealt with?
With respect, that's not how it works. I mean, you really gotta, you have to be involved in the legislative process. And it's sometimes going out there and doing what you said just doesn't work. And I think it's more education with the author and his staff.
Yeah, I would say in this case, I think both approaches work. So I've talked to the author's office, explained what CSLB does versus what DCA does, and I've also talked to our analyst at DCA, and she's provided the same message to them. So I have talked to DCA about whether, they want to take on this authority. I won't speak for them, but, talked about whether the authority can be delegated by DCA to CSLB. It would probably be better if it was spelled out in statute exactly how it works. So it's both. It's education of the author's office, but then that's also what the committees and the legislature are for. They're more familiar with kind of how government is structured and where it would be appropriate to place this.
Okay. So,
Pastor?
Pastor?
Yeah, I guess I'm not so familiar with all the politics going on in Sacramento with these type of things, but, on a practical level, I mean, why have the state DCA office handle complaints when you have an entity, which is a contractor state license board, has jurisdiction over this responsibility? I just don't get it.
I think, okay.
Because I know where you're at, you might. So what happens is authors in our state legislature, as well-intentioned as they are, sometimes are approached by people to run bills. And they give their staff the opportunity to help write the bill, or they take a fully written bill. And they get the Reader's Digest version, and they may not always understand the issues. And sometimes to get them to understand the issues, you have to send a soft message. So the soft message to get them to understand, you got to keep in mind that a lot of the staff people working there are new. There are a lot of young people that some of them don't even know that the license board exists. Some of them don't know that any boards exist because they're kids. So this being able to identify it with the Ledge Committee and then sending a soft, hey, we exist, goes a long ways to helping amend the bill in the right way without insulting the author and without insulting the writer and the kids that are, the staffers that are working for them.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think with just a little education, I think that would be our role to let them know, these young kids, give them a little education of what we do. And what we do, and we do it well, too.
Absolutely. Madam Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Right, so, Linda, you had a motion on the floor that you want to restate that motion, please?
Yes, I will amend that motion that we will support if amended. I'd like to say only if amended, but if amended.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second by David.
Can we just get some clarification on the amendments? Would they be the ones that Laura and I discussed, or would you have other ones that you want to see?
For me, the support if amended, if these conflicts go away and the Contractor State License Board is responsible for doing what it's already doing, but just wants to kick up a notch.
So is that good for you, Christy, there? That'll work? Yes. Thank you. All right, so public comment on the motion, the new motion that's supported if amended? Seeing none? Huh? Board comment, sorry. Board comment? No additional board comment? All right, so Aaron, could you take a roll call, please?
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford.
Aye.
David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera,
Aye.
Ed Lang,
Aye.
Mike Layton,
Aye.
Marlo Richardson,
Aye.
Paul Shafino, Johnny Simpson, Nancy Springer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We're falling back into echo mode there, Rick.
All right, moving along, we have item Assembly Bill 1162 by, and I hope I don't mess this up,
Assemblymember
Bocanegra?
Bocanegra.
Bocanegra. And this is the C10 electrical contractors in regards to local permits. Legislative Committee recommends a watch position. Are there any board comments?
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Next item is Assembly Bill 1190, overall update, Department of Consumer Affairs, the Breeze system. This one, the Legislative Committee recommends a watch position. Are there any comments from the board?
Yes, I have a couple of
Susan?
questions here. On this is, I'm assuming it should have been done, quarterly posting of the progress on Phase 3, but the purpose of the whole bill is just to ensure that they're doing so, is that it? Because there's no final date or any milestones listed.
Yeah, I think the intent is just to have public awareness, maybe what's happening with the Phase 3 boards, because they were left out of Breeze. The Phase 3 boards, including Cslb, are still contributing to the cost of Breeze. So I think the legislature struggled a bit with that, having all the boards continue to pay for it while some of them aren't getting anything out of it. So I think that's part of the reason for the public reporting.
Okay, and my other question is, Dave, we have the ongoing requirements that I had to talk about in some of the documentation I submitted. And the deadline for that, I think we said September, or was 18 months. Can you clarify? When our requirements as to the board presentation on participating in Breeze?
Are you referring to when we complete like kind of our as-is processes?
Yes.
Yes, I think we were aiming for July 2018 to have that done.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any other board comments? All right, any members of the public have comment? All right, so moving forward on the motion to watch position, Aaron, can you take a roll?
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Thank you. So the next item is on page 64. This is Assembly Bill 1278 by law, contractor licensing, final judgments. This is the handout you received on amended text, so I'm going to turn this over to Laura to discuss the amendments.
Sure, and I apologize for not having an amended analysis available. So the amendments now provide that the bill would, we would impose a suspension on a license when we get evidence of a final judgment, but then it also says that the judgment could be removed if they provide evidence of appeal. So those two provisions in the bill conflict because a final judgment is not subject to appeal. So I think we'd recommend that they amend the bill further to make it clear Cslb is not suspending the license until the judgment is final, at which point there's no evidence of appeal to submit. We wait until the appeal process is exhausted before we suspend the license. The other provision in the bill is that it would require the judgment suspension when we do enter it to also apply to people who are associated with the license at the time of the activity that led to the suspension occurred. Right now, we suspend the license for anyone who's associated with it at the time the suspension is recorded. But for people who have disassociated prior to the suspension being recorded, there's no penalty. So they're trying to go after those people who've disassociated from the license. And so we would probably request copies of the contract to determine who was involved or associated with the license at the time of the activity.
So Laura, just for clarification, the legislative committee voted to support if amended, so were these the amendments that we wanted to fully support this now? Or are we still
There's some of
on
them.
a
I think that it
support?
would still be support if amended, and we'd recommend just eliminating the inconsistency in the first provisions of the bill between final judgment and evidence of appeal. So that would be the amendment we'd still be looking for.
So our position remains the same, support as amended? If amended, sorry. Christie?
Okay, so I have real concerns about this bill because it causes and creates ambiguity and vagueness as to what a final judgment is. There's two types of definitions of what a final judgment is. The first one is that all judgments are final, so that when only a final judgment can be appealed to the next level of a court. And that's the one that the creditors like, because then you can suspend the license before all opportunity for appeal or attack is over. That is not my recommendation. It has not been since I've been working with this board. For me, the term final judgment, and when I'm looking at the purpose and the intent of the statute and the way that all the other provisions of the law work in the contractor's law, final judgment means the time when the judgment is safe from all possibility of attack by way of motion, appeal, or any other proceeding that can be brought. So that means that when the suspension is put on there, there's no possibility that can be reversed. Because as you know, 7031 is quite punitive. And so if we're suspending a license before it's truly final and they lose money on a contract, there's liability in that regard. So we need to make sure that things are final, and that's the way the board has been interpreting the law. When I see these amendments that include words like you can take the suspension off if an appeal has been filed, that makes no sense because it shouldn't have been put on there if there was a possibility that someone could appeal the judgment. So what I'm seeing here is that the provision that Ms. Zuniga mentioned on page 5J1, that I'm fine with because it does clarify that the person whose license should be suspended is the person who is responsible at the time that the act or omission occurred. That makes sense. But the rest of the amendments, to me, cause uncertainty as to which version of final judgment are we implementing. And I think that's dangerous for this board to go down that road because we have a liability exposure if we prematurely suspend a license. So I think it needs to be very strongly stated that those amendments, other than J1, are not acceptable because it could really be a liability exposure for you.
Okay, I'm confused.
You are? Okay. What did I miss? I confused you. I'm sorry. Please let me help you. Yeah.
All right, so what we're trying to address is that we have a possible suspension. So there's some court proceeding, I would guess, that a judge does something that says there's a ruling, a court order that says this contractor was not licensed, or the license was suspended, or the suspension, forget about that. That something was wrong where they were unlicensed. The CSLB finds out about that somehow because somebody brings it to the CSLB's attention, and then the CSLB decides to then suspend the license or not. So I'm trying to figure out how this works. What are the mechanics of where we are?
So let me just explain how this law works. A consumer, material supplier, subcontractor, or employee of a contractor, because those are the people that are beneficiaries under this statute, files a lawsuit against one of our licensees. The licensee, the allegations are, an example would be breach of contract in the construction of a project for the homeowner. So that's an example. Homeowner wins, gets a monetary damage award. A judgment is entered. At that point in time, it's a judgment, but it's not final in the sense that a contractor can still file motions for reconsideration, for a new trial. They can also appeal. Typically in California courts, it's 60 days after the judgment's entered and notice of entry of judgment is served. So they have that time frame to file an appeal, at which time the Court of Appeal could get the case and reverse the underlying judgment. So you want to wait until all opportunity for something to be reversed is over with. That's what we understand the term final judgment to mean. And that's the way the law is currently written. What you're seeing here is an attempt to change or muddy the definition of what final means, because under court rules, a judgment, only a final judgment can be appealed. So I know it's a little confusing, but what that means to a court is, once the lower court has finally decided what it believes to be the case, right? That's not the final judgment we're enforcing. We're enforcing the one that occurs on the back end, where all the litigation is done and over with. They want to change the definition so that it's the first type of judgment, which is the first judgment that's entered at the lower court level. I think that's dangerous because it can be reversed. You don't want to suspend someone's license. What happens is we get the judgment. If it's final, they have 90 days to correct with the consumer, or we suspend the license, right? But it's got to be final when we get it. You can't have the ability to suspend a license unless all possibility of attack of that judgment is gone, because otherwise, if we suspend the license and they get reversed on appeal, then we have to go back and take the suspension off, like they say in this proposed legislation, which makes no sense, because that person was found by a higher court to have not violated the law.
So far, so good.
Do you understand?
Awesome.
So our process is, when we get a final judgment, final meaning all attacks, appeals are done, 90 days comes, hopefully we get the judgment at that point, and then they have 90 days to pay the judgment or reach an agreement with the consumer, post a bond. And if they don't, then the suspension is placed on the license. That's the current law.
So how would that work if somebody decided not?
The staff have procedures in place for that, and the rules of court are what we consult. So if you're looking at what the appeal is for a California judgment, for instance, in a state court, the rules are typically, if it's a contested judgment, meaning somebody litigated it, not a default, they litigated it, a judgment was entered, 60 days from the date of notice of entry of judgment is served, or 180 days if no notice is served. And that happens too. From the date that it's entered, it's final if nobody files an appeal or other motion. So there are rules for every court as to when that time frame stops. And so you either wait till the time frame exhausts with no appeal, and you get the docket, right? That form you saw last year where they collect all the information for the judgment unit, complaint, judgment, docket. Docket will tell you if any further activity has been filed on that case and whether it's final or not, because you add it up. So I don't know if that makes sense to everybody. Any questions? Still some foggy.
Yeah, I think in light of all this, there's two things that this bill's doing. One is muddying the final judgment, and two, holding the licensee, the RMO or RME accountable. So
Right.
the key, I think, crux of this bill is if I get, let's use Paul since this is his last meeting. Paul loses in a lawsuit, and before that judgment is final, Paul goes and qualifies for another license. Currently, he could, in theory, do that. His old license would be suspended because of the final judgment. What this bill seeks to do is suspend that existing license that he had and any other license that he is on.
Acquired, yeah.
So the key is attaching personal responsibility to the RMO or RME. That's one provision of the bill. The other provision of the bill that Christie's talking about
Yeah.
does muddy that final judgment.
Right.
I don't think we want to go down into what we're doing now, because what we're doing now seems to be working. We don't
Right.
have an issue with how we're enforcing those judgments or those suspensions. I think we will if we change it. So I think the crux of the Ledge Committee and this bill is, we want to support personal liability or personal suspension of any RMO or RME that is on a license at the time of a bad act.
Right.
But we don't want to muddy the water with what is a
What is a
final
final
judgment.
judgment, right?
Pastor?
Well, I mean, you are, the three of you are attorneys, so you're probably looking at this in the weeds, and we are not. But here on the amendment that you provided on page 96, right there at the bottom, the last paragraph before vote majority, you know, it seems like, to me, it's pretty clear that they have to wait until all appeals are done. I mean, is that,
Page 2.
yeah, page 2 of the amendment. I
But
mean,
appeal is not the only method for attacking a judgment.
so.
You can file different kinds of motions that will delay the time clock ticking down for
Yeah,
your right to an
So do you
appeal.
want to add that language there?
No, because there's a million different types of motions in different jurisdictions. So I
So
think that,
one, you're saying that doesn't cover
I
it?
don't think the changes that are proposed for the final judgment should be accepted. That's my recommendation, to not accept those. The one that you were speaking of that has to do with personal responsibility, I have no objection to it, makes sense from a legal perspective. But it's the part where they're changing what is considered a final judgment and talks about lifting a suspension when someone provides proof of appeal, that to me makes no sense, because you shouldn't have suspended it.
It's the language in 7071.17 B, 2B, where it says, notwithstanding subparagraph A, the suspension shall be removed if the licensee provides proof the judgment is under appeal in a court of competent jurisdiction. The suspension shall be reinstated if the judgment has been upheld and no further appeal is sought, or all appeals are exhausted. We'd strike this language.
Right, so I have a question. I agree with the RME or RMO situation, whoever the qualifier is. I have a question whether every personnel of record on the licenses should be kept from doing. I mean, sometimes you have the secretary is on there or something, and it's, you know, I mean, the treasury secretary of the corporation, right, who is not an RME, not an RMO, not involved. And when you read it, it says under existing law, the qualifying person and any partner of the licensee are personnel named as a debtor. So if the personnel record is named as a debtor, that's one thing. But if they're not, why should this be expanded to take out 5 people on a license when there's 1 or 2 that, you know, are the RME, RMO?
It would apply to everyone. 7025 of our code defines members of the personnel of record, and so it's beyond the qualifier. It's every person listed in the records of the registrar is associated with a license.
So,
That's the
Christie?
current law. The current law requires,
So we're discussing this, and the question on the floor, or the motion, is a fully formed motion
correct?
to support if amended. Now, realizing that we all have issues and questions with this, is this something that we may want to send back to committee, or just go on with the motion? And what do you want to do with it, Laura?
I think we could just finalize it today, and I can work out the technical language, but I have an understanding of what the board would like to do with the bill.
Okay, because everything everyone has said is justified
Well,
and well
yeah.
appreciated, but we really got to talk about the motion, am I right?
Well, I mean, I don't know, Laura may have a better idea of how to address it. I mean, you could always state that it's support if amended, and then if they refuse to take your amendments, you could change it to an oppose. So that would, I don't know if that would be too constraining for you, but that is
Do
something
you
I've
have
seen
enough
done.
leeway to do something like
I
that?
have enough leeway, I think.
Okay. So the chair is going to call the question, because it's a fully formed motion. Go ahead and
Right,
ask.
so the motion remains the same, support if amended. So,
Public.
public comment on the motion? Any public comment?
Good afternoon.
understand the existing law, but for years and years and years, and I'm an attorney and I practice in this area, we would get judgments. We would submit the judgments to the CSLB. The CSLB would then mail out the standard letter that indicates your license is going to be suspended in 90 days, and they gave like 4 or 5 different ways in which you can avoid your license being suspended, one being you pay the judgment, another one showing proof of some settlement agreement, filing bankruptcy, and there may be 1 or 2 others. Now I'm seeing, and maybe there's been a change in the board, that we send these judgments to the CSLB, and someone writes back to us and says, no, we're not going to enter it until the time for appeal has expired. So I think that's what you're operating now, and I don't know whether or not that's being done on all of them. So that's just a comment of practicalness that's happening out there in the field. The other part that I'd like you to address or think about is the bill, this is the second paragraph where it says, the bill provides that a license suspension shall be removed if the licensee provides proof that judgment is under appeal. I'd like to know what proof you have to supply. I have had a couple of different appeals to the appellate court, and I have heard that you have to either give an appeal bond, which requires you to go out and buy a bond.
Now,
Proof of
very
sati-
quickly, this is under the bill, correct?
This is under, that says the bill, the new bill, I think.
Right,
I don't know
okay.
whether, I haven't had a chance to read the amendment,
Okay.
and it was a little bit difficult to hear some of the comments being made here.
Just
but-
so you know, we can't comment on the bill. That's the author's bill.
Well, if
We
it
can
goes,
take your testimony, but we can't comment on the bill because we don't know the intent of the
I'm
author.
not looking for comment. I would just, if it goes back into committee to discuss, if perhaps you can address the issue of what is the proof of appeal. If I can hand a page that shows I filed a notice of appeal that's stamped by the appellate court, is that going to be sufficient, or is it going to have to be something else? I just don't know how to address this particular aspect.
I can follow up with you after, but I would say we're not placing the suspensions until the judgment is final. That is a change from prior practice of the board. We used to place the suspension before the judgment was final.
Careful, you're going too far.
We may
So you
have
gotta stay
had a
within,
different
you have
practice.
to stay within the bill. You can't go outside of the bill, so.
Okay, so we're not looking for the
we've taken
evidence
your
of appeal.
testimony.
Well, I think she's talking about the existing law.
I know, but she's got to, we're talking about the bill. We cannot comment on the bill. I mean, they went back and forth, talked about it. We don't know the author's intent. So your comments are being noted by Laura, and she's just looked at me and said that those are things that we're going to look at as we proceed forward. So your testimony, we are taking under advisement.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any additional public comment? All right. Move forward with the count for the motion.
Just for clarification of the board, so the motion is support and concept the suspension of personnel of record on the license, but that the amendment that we need is not to muddy the water with the final judgment terms. So we're all on the same page.
And Laura, you
Aye.
understand that, right? Yes. Okay.
Kevin Albanese. Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is Assembly Bill 1357. This is on page 72. Home inspectors, roof and contractors, roof inspections. The Legislative Committee recommends a watch position on this bill. Do we have any comments from the board? Board members?
Why is this bill necessary? I wasn't sure why it's necessary.
I mean, there are provisions in our law that the board doesn't actually enforce, but that are placed there about who can perform inspections and why they're, and then there's conflict of interest prohibitions, so certain people can't perform inspections if they can then do the repairs, so that's what they're trying to address.
And I believe also, Laura, that it had clarification that the difference of when a roofing contractor is going out to give a bid, that's not the same, and that would be part of the practice. So it's just kind of clarification on that.
All right. Thank you.
So this is similar to what they have for optometrists can't sell glasses. You know, it's the prohibition for, the appearance is that there's a conflict of interest or a motivation to sell somebody glasses if you also have the authority to dispense them. So if you prescribe and then you dispense, you might be motivated to do more prescriptions so that you can dispense more and make more money. It's the same thing with the roof inspection. That's the idea anyway behind the consumer protection issue. And I don't know whether it's actually a problem or not, but that's what this bill is intending to undo, it looks like.
Any other board comments? And I would request Aaron for a roll call.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item is Senate Bill 27, Morel, and this is Professions and Vocations, Licenses, Military Service, and a Fee Waiver. This bill was held in Senate Appropriations Committee and is no longer active. So we would need a motion to table and a second.
So moved. Second.
Okay, board comments? Any comments from the public? All right, Aaron, could you move forward with roll call, please?
Kevin Albanese. Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang. Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Thank you. So the next item is on page 82. This is Senate Bill 486, Monning, and this is Contract to State License Law, Letter of Admonishment. This was a sponsored bill that we authorizing the issuance of a letter of admonishment. There's no motion needed here, as the board already voted to support this back at the March meeting. So we're going to move on to the next item, and that public comment, though. Yes. Okay. So do we have any board comment? Public comment? All right. So we're going to move to the next item. Next item is Senate Bill 715, Newman. This is the Department of Consumer Affairs Regulatory Boards, removal of board members. This bill, wait a minute, sorry about that. This one, the Legislative Committee recommends a watch position. So do we have any board comment? Seeing none. Do we have any public members that have a comment? All right, Aaron, please, roll call.
Kevin Albanese. Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item L, Senate Bill 721 by Hill. This is contractors, deck and balconies inspection. This bill is no longer actively moving this year, so staff recommends tabling this item. So we will need a motion and a second to table the item.
Second.
Do you have any board comment? Members of the public? Aaron, could you please take roll?
Kevin Albanese. Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item is on page 113, and that is Senate Bill 800, the Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee, Professions and Vocations. Legislative Committee recommends a support position on this bill. Do I have any board comment? Kevin?
Sir, is that
Excuse me? Yes.
Just a quick question. I know if an individual goes from an individual license to a corporation, he or she can take that license number and assign that to the corporation, right?
Yeah, there are limited circumstances under which you can transfer your license number.
And then a corporation going to an LLC can also bring their license number,
I
correct?
believe so.
And all this does is says that if Corporation A buys Corporation B, Corporation B's license number, I'm not sure I'm trying to understand what this does.
Okay, the problem is that they put in there that you get someone's license number if you purchase their assets. So let's just say I'm selling this pen as part of my assets. My corporation owns this pen and I'm selling it to Paul Schaffino, Mr. Schaffino. And he buys my pen, now he can have my license, even though I'm still here? It doesn't make any sense. I think there was a mistake in drafting when it was first drafted. I think they meant when you purchase the entity itself, not just their assets. Because it's the asset sale that, under the current law, that triggers the ability to get the license, and that doesn't make any sense.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, so we did board comment, public members, do we have any comment?
Kevin Albanese. Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Grizzello. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marla Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Schaffino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
All right, we got through the bills.
Really?
We are now on agenda item D3, which starts on page 169. All right, so this is I'll run through it really quick. This is review, discussion, possible action to recommend to the board the initiation of a rulemaking to amend Title 16 California Code of Regulations, Sections 853, 858.1, 858.2, 869, 869.9, and 872. This proposed regulatory package, there was some minor changes to our existing regulations, and at this point, I will turn this over to Laura because I believe we have a substitute motion for this one.
Thank you. So we discussed this in some detail at the Legislative Committee. We made one change in the Legislative Committee, which is reflected in the text on page 172. And it's under 853, Section A, which is the reference to where we have an email address of record that we would send the information via email. So the discussion was just that this would be an additional notification. It was not in place of the mail notification. And maybe this came from an idea recommended by Paul Schaffino, but I think we need to remove the change at this point because we need to further kind of study how we don't have email addresses of record for all of our licensees right now, and then we need to look with our IT system as to, we don't have emails matching up with all of our license records. We want to look a little bit further into how we would do this as a courtesy notification, not to replace the mail notification. But we'd like staff to study a little bit further before we put it into the regulation, because it could impact other sections of our regulations where our applications are. That, it might open those up to review, which we'd like to avoid at this point.
Chair, if I could. So my thought was, and still is, that if we are collecting these email addresses, we should use them to help keep everybody on the same page, that they know we should use them. We have them. Never was my thought that it replaces mail, because you have all the legal issues that go with that, so it should always be there. I don't really care, personally, I don't care if it's a regulation. I just think that it's something the CSLB should do. So, we've got laws, we've got regulations, we have administrative convection that we do. I don't care where it falls in the gambit, it's just if it's there, use it.
Right.
We use it every day to send all the CSLB newsletters. We'll use it for notices for renewals.
Right, and so we're still looking into it
Or
without it being in the
suspensions.
regulation.
I mean, suspensions, notices of renewals, anything that comes up that impacts that entire license should go to the whole group, not just one letter to a qualifier. Because if the qualifier is out and sick and doesn't get the letter, then an entire entity could miss a renewal or something like that. 7031, it's all about that.
Christie?
I think that the reason I would recommend also removing it is because it's not necessary, and that's one of the standards we have to meet when we're adopting a regulation. We don't actually have to put in here that at your discretion, you're going to email people, because it's not a requirement in law. There's no requirement that people give us an address in law. So the OAL, which is the Office of Administrative Law, that would look at this regulation proposal, might find that problematic, because it's not necessary for you to do business that way, and there's no requirement for people to provide the email. And you have to have the physical address legally to serve notices in order for it to be legally effective. They might actually reject the whole package because of that one issue, and that's my concern.
So Chair, one more time, if I could. So we have maybe one of two choices right now. One is to go back to staff to reconfigure or rethink the process. Is another one just for the board right now to say, just strike it. We're asking the board to do it. We're just saying to staff, just do it. Just send the email out. And we'll just leave in, I guess, there was something about a 30-day grace period on license expiration. That was something Kurt brought up, because we're doing it by convection, but he wanted it to be by regulation.
Well, we probably need to look at statutory change for something like that, but, at this point, this was just to do some technical cleanup to these regulations. That was the whole intent and purpose of this package, to get some of these provisions current. And so I would suggest that if you want to pursue that, that might be another item for a future agenda that we discuss, how to implement that.
It is on our list for future development, because it is, we either need a statutory change, or we can just continue with the way we've been implementing it, which is providing maybe a little bit more leeway under the law for the grace period.
Yeah, 7140 is pretty straightforward about when your license expires. So you probably want to add something in there if you want additional legal wiggle room, so to speak, or discretion. So I think that the way that the regulations are drafted, with the exception of that second sentence of subdivision A on page 172 for section 853, you could strike that second sentence. That I think would help ensure the package is able to be implemented. It's, would help assure, I think, that the Office of Administrative Law may not have concerns with the way that it's going to be done.
Through the chair, I would make that motion.
Second.
Full motion, please.
Yes, please do.
So the motion is to approve the proposed regulatory text as amended here today, direct staff to submit the text to the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency review, and if no adverse comments are received, authorize the Registrar to take all necessary steps to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive changes to the package, and set the matter for hearing.
Kevin, is your motion reflective of that comment?
That is what I meant, Chair.
Pastor, you understand your second?
Do we have any public comment in regards to the motion? Seeing none? Board comment? Okay, Aaron, take roll, please.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran. Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Grzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I thought I did. So what ends up, what did we end up with in the email? That's not part of a motion. How
Right,
do
but-
we do that?
Staff still, we're working on it already, so we're working with
Okay.
IT to see what we can do, and, yeah.
And then report back to the committee, report back to the board? What's the follow-up here?
Yeah, we can report back probably through the legislative committee and then to the full board. Yeah, since it originated at the committee.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is agenda item D4, and that is an update on, that's on page 191, an update on implementation of Senate Bill 1039, and that was by Hill. That was in 2016, and a fee increase. This implementation is on track. The IT division has been working hard to make the necessary changes The new fees go into effect July 1st. So, any board comments? Any public comments? All right, then we'll move on to the next item. Okay, and our last item, item number 5, is on page 194, and that is an update on the implementation of Senate Bill 465, again by Hill 2016, and this was a study and report requirement. If you look on 194, you will see that there's an update which includes like a timeline. We're on track with, as you note on there on 194, it talks about some items that they were doing in March through May. They're on track with those ones. The next items coming up is June through August, and it talks about conducting a mini stakeholder meeting, and that will be hopefully the end of July. So all this is in the works, and we are on track. Any board comments? Any public comments? No comments? All right. That concludes the Legislative Committee update.
Thank you, Legislative Committee, for that robust 5-hour presentation. We're going to take 10 minutes, and we'll be back at 2:40. All righty, License Board, it's time. We move to licensing. The chair would call upon Committee Chair Susan Granzella and Laura Zuniga to give the licensing report.
Yes, so delightful to follow the Baton Death March. Thank you, thank you. So, before I start a report on licensing, I want to repeat or add my own comments about Laura and double duty, because we've all done it in our careers and we all hated it. I don't know about you, but I did. And yet it teaches us so much about our skill sets, and taking on licensing was a lot of work. Legislative, I'm sure you can do it in your sleep. However, you've been responsive, it's been a pleasure, and I know you're still learning a lot about how that works. But I just wanted to say thank you very much for doing all of that work. I'll start by highlighting some current numbers we have in our report, and we're up 4% for the total number of applications received. We've also increased by 20% the number of original licenses issued compared to last year. And renewals for the same period, or renewals from 2 years ago, are up 2%. And we're continuing to see a significant increase in the number of home improvement, HIS, home improvement salesperson renewals. I thought I was going to say service. I forgot. So I suppose the bottom line is that the numbers have increased, and we are very trying to keep up with all of that with technology. And the update, the specific update, I'm going to turn over to Laura at this time.
Okay, thank you. So starting on page 198 of the packet, we start with the number of applications received per month over the past year. You can see our original exam applications are still up a little bit higher than, they didn't drop as they normally do at this time of year, so that's good. And then we've been up over the last few years in the next chart for total applications received over each year. And then moving on to page 199, you can see the applications processed per month, as well as over the last couple of fiscal years. So staff in the processing units are all very busy right now. And then moving on to page 200, we have a chart on the average weeks to initial processing by month. So this lists all most of the different types of processing we do in licensing. I do just want to note here, this chart, when we pull for processing for certain things like workers' comp or bond, we pull it and we process it and it's done. But when we pull the applications, that's just the beginning of the process. So it doesn't necessarily reflect how long the process is to issue a license in this chart. So this chart is for when we pull it for processing. So when we pull, say, workers' comp for processing, we process it when we pull it and it's done. So there's nothing further to do. But when we pull an application to process, that's just the start of the process of reviewing the application, working with the applicant to get it. So this doesn't reflect how long it takes to issue a license. It's just when we start work on it. And then on to page 201, you can see the disposition of applications by in the current fiscal year. You can see the ones that were pending at the end of the last fiscal year, and then explanation of what pending is or why it could still be pending. And then moving on to page 202, workers' compensation recertification. So these numbers on page 202, it's a chart showing kind of the status of all licenses with coverage and then with an exemption. And then on page 203, we break it down by classification and percentage for exemptions. I think at the last board meeting or committee meeting, Pastor had asked about looking at historical information on this, and we did review that information. It really hasn't changed when we looked at the historical data, so it stays pretty consistent. Any questions?
What would be the reason for the application being void? Sorry.
If they don't meet all the requirements. So say someone submits an application and we ask for additional information to document their experience and they never submit it, it would go void if they don't meet the time frame. Okay, on to fingerprinting. So you can see on page 204, information about our criminal background unit. Over each year as we've implemented fingerprinting, you can see that our denial rate stays very low for the total denials. On page 205, information about our experience verification unit. We randomly select 3% of applications for a more intense review of the experience. So you can see the numbers there. And then on the chart on page 206, details it by classification, which ones are pulled for additional review. Then on page 207, the Licensing Information Center, or call center. We receive about 13,000 calls a month. As board members are aware, we've seen increased wait times over the last few months. I think it's due to a combination of factors. We were backlogged in the processing of workers' compensation certificates at the beginning of the year, which generated a lot of phone calls to the call center. They're also short-staffed. We have turnover is pretty consistent in that unit. It's more recently become a longer process to hire and recruit behind vacant positions, and so we're constantly advertising and then interviewing for positions. So we are, at the direction of David, redirecting staff to answer calls. So the manager of the call center is taking staff from other units. We've also implemented a feature that after someone's been waiting for 5 minutes on hold at the call center, they have the option of leaving a voicemail for a callback within 24 hours. So those messages are then emailed. There's a separate email address, and the supervisors in that unit, there are 4 of them, and then myself have access to that. We'll return the calls, or we'll distribute them to other staff. Enforcement staff have been helping out. I called 2 back yesterday. I was able to help 1 of the 2, so I have a 50% rate of help, but other people are more helpful than I am. And then on to page 208 is information about the judgment unit, which judgments we talked about a lot in our last section. So these are numbers on outstanding liabilities, and then money returned to consumers. Any questions?
I have one question. On your judgment unit, do you find that calls are generated because of information you're getting or the way issues you're handling in that unit?
Calls to the call center, you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't think we get a lot of calls on that subject.
You know, okay, good.
Okay, do we have any comments from the board? Any discussion from the public? All right, moving on to item number 2, discussion regarding BPC Section 7125.5 Workers' Compensation Certificate of Insurance Processing and Reporting Requirements. And this item was placed on the agenda by Kevin. It is also a question that has come up, or inquiries. And I'll turn this item over to Laura as well to present.
Thanks. So first, I just want to say there's some information on page 212 and then 213 of the packet, and there's also a handout that you all have with some other information about the processing of workers' compensation certificates. I do want to say we've identified some potential remedies for reviewing the current processes and making improvements so that we can process quicker and not be backlogged in the processing of workers' comp certificates. So we have developed a staff working group. We've been meeting, I think, since late January, early February. We meet weekly. We have 40 tasks pending that we've identified to make changes, which are from small changes to big changes in the process. And then we've completed 34 additional tasks. the most significant improvement that will result is we're working on development of a smart form that'll be a fillable online certificate for workers' compensation. So on the handout, you can see the reasons that we reject workers' compensation certificates, why we can't accept them. The primary reason is it doesn't have a license number, but then there are multiple other factors that lead them to be rejected. 20 to 25% of the certificates we receive, we cannot process. And so that takes staff time to work on the rejections and mailing them back. So with the fillable form online, we anticipate that would decrease the number of certificates that are rejected. And then once it's available online, which we anticipate by August 1st, we will turn it into a electronic submission of the data from the form so that there is no processing of the certificate. It will electronically update in our system. So as soon as they submit the smart form, it'll transmit to our system and update the license record automatically.
When will that be, excuse me, Chair, when will that be done by?
Hopefully September 1st. And then I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Yeah, I guess, and who will fill out that fillable form? Is that something that's going to be filled out by the insurance carrier or the broker or the contractor?
I believe the law requires you to be a duly licensed insurer to submit the form, but anyone will be able to fill out the form presumably, just like anyone could submit one to us now, signed copy. So there won't be a login feature.
Okay. I just want to make sure that there's the right security, that contractors or Joe Blow can't dummy up a form and fill it in. Do we have some control for that?
It would be about the same level of control we have now. So we require a signature from the duly authorized representative, and there'll be acknowledgements on the electronic submission that they need to be duly licensed, and it's under penalty of perjury.
Okay.
Just FYI, this is done in other states already, where it's all done by the insurance carrier, submits it directly, so it doesn't touch, a copy goes to us.
Right. No, of course. And that's how ours works here too.
And State Compensation Insurance Fund now does submit that way, where it's an electronic submission, so.
Good. Yeah, I guess through the chair, I had put this on, and I know Laura's been doing double duty, and this has been new for you and coming in. The impact to the consumer by not being prompt on the workers' comp renewal is huge, because you have consumers, you have public agencies that are going to the website, as we're asking them to do, and getting information that is stale because it hadn't been processed. I'm concerned, and am I reading this right on page 200, where the workers' comp, the average weeks for processing, it was a week, 0.6 of a week, and then, because this problem has been going on since December.
So the numbers that show 1 week are not accurate.
Right, okay. And even currently, I mean, just my own experience, my company's was turned in on May 17th, it got posted today. After we landed. So we're about 4 weeks running. And what that 4 weeks does, not just to the consumer, because obviously we're a consumer protection board, but we also have obligations to our licensees as stakeholders, that we're putting up good information for them to conduct their business. And oftentimes contractors, for those of you on the board that aren't contractors, we don't renew our workers' comp until the day before it's expiring. That's when we'll bind coverage, when we'll get a policy number, for a whole host of reasons. It's not because we're waiting to the last minute, it's legitimate business reasons. And if we're dealing with a 2 week or 2.5 week delay, and the insurance carrier messes up the business name, for example, and I'm not sure the extent of those errors or discrepancies, it goes back to the contractor, it goes back to the insurer, and then it goes back in the queue. There's no way to get it back in front of the queue to get processed promptly and whatnot. So I feel it's really important that everybody's on the same page with this. I think Laura's been doing what she can. I think with Dave's support, this has got to be a huge priority. Because again, these are contractors that already have that property right in their license. And if we're putting up erroneous information or falsely suspending a license, even though it's retroactive, even though it goes back, we could be finding ourselves in deep trouble. So I encourage us to be very diligent, and whatever resources we need to make sure that the workers' comp is being processed. In 4 years on the board, I've had nothing but unbelievable interactions with staff, still do. This is the first item of this magnitude that I've been made aware of, and I just want a continued diligence and priority on this matter.
Sure, let me just add a little bit more information. So as of Monday, we were processing May 24th certificates, so I'm not sure why yours was processed today, so I'll look into that. But so we're running it a little over 2 weeks, about 2.5 weeks. There is a grace period built into law. It's 45 days. So from when someone's workers' compensation expires, when their certificate on file expires, the license is suspended 45 days after that if we have not received and processed a new one. So when we were backlogged 4 weeks, we were suspending a lot of licenses. And so we got hundreds of complaints, and the manager over that unit and myself took the calls to talk to people about those. And so they would complain, and we would look into it. And the vast majority of the time, when the license is suspended, the certificate is not submitted until 30 days after the old one expires. And then when 20 to 25% of them are rejected, that's the reason it results in a suspension.
And just some information, when a contractor comes in to pull a building permit, if they're supposed to have their workman's comp, if they don't have that and it's not updated, we won't issue that permit, we'll hold it. A lot of times we'll try to call down and see if we can confirm that, but it will hold up. It won't even process for plan review, so it can hold up like a commercial project as well as a residential. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're having contact, so we might need to talk about maybe a hotline number for building officials, so if we do have some issues, I think 2 weeks is fine there. Usually if we see the 30-day, we know it might have been processing, and we'll try to make that phone call and make it happen. But just so you're aware that we're all going electronic now, and so they're able to apply online, and that will be a stop to them right there. Everything is going computerized, and so it's going to be really critical that those processing times are in there and that's happening, because it'll just stop projects left and right, and then we'll all be hearing about it. So we should talk about maybe getting a number that we can call in directly, not have to kind of go through the
Sure.
other line and stuff.
If I could just add a couple of things. Laura, you're meeting with State Fund, I believe, next week. And
We're meeting Monday. They asked to meet with us because they saw that an increasing number of their certificates were being rejected, and they wanted to know what they could do to improve the process.
But I just really want to compliment Laura on the approach that she's taking, and it is it's a all hands-on-deck approach right now. I'm working with Rick Lopes and seeing what we can do, perhaps putting together some type of a webinar so we can help in the short term, help the agents understand what they need to put on the policy. Because the staff are working extremely hard, but the problem is when you have 40% of your workers' comp certificates are either duplicates or they're in error, it's creating this delay that we have to eliminate. So I think you're going to see that we are going to continue to make progress, and with the programs that we're putting into play, it should take care of the problem. But again, that would be September 1.
I do want to add, since we do see a significant number rejected, Aaron Schultz actually developed for us it'll be, I'm not passing it out because it's not done yet, but it's going to be an online form that walks people through each step, like explaining what needs to be in each box. There are about 5 or 6 boxes that need to be filled out correctly, and so we list exactly what needs to be included in each one to try to reduce the error rate.
Two questions. One, did something change that caused the increase? Because this is we've been processing insurance certificates for years as a board. Did something change recently?
So, one of the factors that led to the backlog was that that unit is staffed by 7.5 positions, which is sufficient to process, if they're fully staffed, given normal conditions. So they were down 2 of the staff at the time, and then another one was out, was not working full time, and it took about 4 months to fill those positions. So similar to the call center situation where it's taking longer to fill vacancies, that was the main reason.
Gotcha.
Yeah, just a quick question here, and my commendations to you for carrying 2 hats here. I know it's not easy, but on your first bullet on page 212 there, where you have some peaks in January, April, June, and October, is there any way that you could possibly even that out over the 12-month period?
I don't know there's much we can do to even it out, but because we identify the peaks that we will try to bring the processing time down as low as we can before a peak, so we'll offer overtime to staff to try to get it even lower than it is. We consider 2 weeks to be caught up, so if we can get it as low as we can to 2 weeks or even lower before a peak, that would be how we'd address the situation.
Their term of that they're covered is the time that they get their license, right? No? It's not? If there-
The policy term is between the contractor and his or her insurer. So it's usually an annual term, but it could renew 1st of June, 1st of August, 1st of whatever.
So one of the things I wanted to add, because we had the same questions, was the questions and all the requirements to fill out that she mentioned, that everything, when things were rejected, we needed to have that information to send back. And if they don't know, so many of the forms that were coming in for workers' comp were wrong. And the manual processes that had been in place forever were fine to accommodate the old workflow, but now that we were being much more, taking a look at those, trying to match everything up with technology and having better data in our database, that it was part of that, how things were much slower in that period. It's a combination of things. So improvements in the manual handling is also part of the solution. Okay? So any further board comments or discussion? And do we have any comments from the public?
I would hope that somebody from the public would come up and speak, considering that this was such a hotbed issue. Thanks for taking
that was
the
a
bullet
hint.
for the team.
Well, I'm the shy, bashful type. Phil Vermeulen, and this has been a hot button issue. I've had a lot of contractors that have called me over the last, God knows how many months. We've lost public works jobs, millions of dollar jobs because the workers' comp wasn't put in time, and it's been plaguing the industry, I mean, across the board. So we've all agree that it has to be fixed. Our pledge is to work with the staff, come up with some viable solutions that resolve the problem. I can tell you that I know a quick fix that a lot of guys are doing. They're filing an exemption for workers' comp and getting that in, which defeats the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish here. So, they put that in, then they'll come back and get their policy in time, but that way there's not a lag. And I don't think that's what we want to do. I think what we want to do is get the thing processed in time and make sure that everybody's obeying the law. I've said it many times in the past. I'm a firm believer, Dave has heard me say this many a time, that I ultimately believe the solution is to require mandatory workers' comp for all contractors and put the burden on the carrier to do the audit every year. And then if they're after they've gone through the books and decided that they don't have employees, they can work out some kind of a rebate system to apply it towards the next year. But I think that we're spending so much time, staff time, enforcement time on workers' comp. There's got to be a better way to do this. So those are my 2 cents worth. And I want to thank Dave, Kevin, Laura. You guys are trying, and we'll just keep plugging away at it, but we have to do something, clearly. Thank you.
Christie. I have heard from the industry quite a bit about the mandatory workman's comp thing. Is that something, I know we can't discuss it now, but something that we should talk about either in the Ledge Committee, or maybe Ledge Committee would be a good place for it, huh?
Right, so since the agenda item only deals with the current processing situation and not potential legislative solutions, I would suggest placing it on a legislative committee agenda.
So, yeah.
I was just going to say, when David's able to hire my replacement in legislation, I'll add that to the list of duties.
Okay, so let's look to giving that that task to the Ledge Committee to talk about at the next Ledge Committee meeting about the mandatory workman's comp issue and possibilities. And maybe we can find an author in the Ledge, or just got my fingers crossed. We'll just see where we go with it.
So maybe at the risk of straying too far from what our agenda item is, I do want to remind the board that we license for a minimum level of competency, and so when we impose additional restrictions on requirements on licensure, you have to look at that balancing act.
All right, we'll do that in Ledge Committee. Thank you. Chair?
Okay. Any more public comment? All right, moving on to number 3, discussion regarding methods of service of notice when contacting licensees and applicants regarding CSLB's licensing and enforcement matters. This item was placed on the agenda at the request of Paul Schifino, and you...
We kind of talked about it in the last item, so I don't know if you want to talk about it any further, but we made it a separate item as well.
All right. Are there any comments from the board members? Any comments from the public? All right, moving on, number 4, discussion regarding the state's bark beetle infestation and state actions to take address licensure issues and the removal of infected trees. So, I believe Dave was working on that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
thank you.
That
Yes.
Dave.
Well, if you look at page 218, we have a summary of the bark beetle infestation, and it provides some historical context from 2003 when the board did work with Governor Davis and development of a proclamation that allowed licensed timber operators in the declared disaster area to remove infected trees without having a CSLB license. There's some debate as to whether that exemption exists today. There was another proclamation in 2005 which expanded the area for the disaster and where you could remove trees. I've been working very closely with the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency on this issue. In turn, they're working with the governor's office in development of another proclamation. As it stands today, they estimate, they being the California Department of Forestry, that there's as many as 100 million trees that need to be removed. Just an incredible number of trees. And the question is, how many licensed entities or persons are available to remove these trees? And it would appear that it's around 32,000. If you combine CSLB licensees that have a tree specialty class for removal or tree trimming with the landscape contractor class, and you add that with the licensed timber operators, you're about 32,000 people. So we don't have enough businesses in California to remove the trees to prevent wildfires. This is put in the packet for discussion purposes, and what I was asking is for permission to continue to work with our agency in providing information that they can use with the governor's office. I've simply been serving just as a consultant, gathering information, and I've kept our board chair, Augie Beltran, in the loop.
So, there is no action required at this time.
No, it was just to keep you updated on what's going on, is for discussion purposes, and to, if you have any comments that you'd like to share, I'd be happy to bring those back to the working group.
Thank you, Dave. Any comments from the board? Yes.
Question, so Dave, is the Department of Forestry handling who's taking the trees out and checking licenses and all?
We didn't put in the packet, but Ken Pemblot is our executive officer. He's part of this, and there's 5 different proposals that they've made to mitigate this public safety danger. And right now, I'm not aware that any of the 5 have been approved. But yes, they're looking for solutions to this problem, and it's a critical issue.
Any other comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Can you come to the podium?
Please take the podium.
Can you come to the podium, please? Thank you.
It's just a question. That number that you gave, is that statewide?
Yeah, that's a number that the California Department of Forestry came up with from 2010. So they're saying from 2010 to current, there could be 102 million trees that need to be removed. And Laura, we put that map in our, the map in there?
Yes, it's in there.
There's an incredible amount of information I could share with you after the meeting. We didn't put it on the packet, but I have it with me today.
Okay, thanks.
So yeah, it's statewide, but if you look at the map, it's just in a certain area going up the state where they're got the bark beetle infestation.
I know they had a real problem years ago, and that may be when this first came about down in San Bernardino County. So, okay, thank you.
right, any other comments from the public? Well, our final item is the testing program update, and again, I'm glad she's awake. I give you Laura.
Okay, starting on page 231. Actually, on to page 232, you can see the number of examinations we've administered throughout our 8 test centers throughout the last year, as well as then the number of examinations scheduled by test center. So testing is doing a very brisk business. In the examination development unit, you can see the occupational analyses in progress, as well as the exams in development. We released a new law and business exam in April and a new C54 ceramic and mosaic tile exam in May. This unit has 1 vacancy that we just are about to advertise for. And then, are there any no questions? On the next page, the consumer satisfaction survey, which is typically covered in testing, it's going to be covered in the enforcement section. So.
Any board comments?
Sorry, question. I apologize, I probably should know this answer. How often do we update these exams?
They're updated every 5 to 7 years.
Every 5 to 7?
It's about a year process to update the exam from when we start the occupational analysis process.
And do you have a list of when all the exams have been updated? Like,
We do. Do you want me to send it to you?
Yeah, I would like to see that, thank you.
Any further comments from the board? And any comments from the public? All right, that concludes our presentation for licensing and testing.
Thank you, Licensing Committee, for that great and wonderful report. We now move on to enforcement, page 235 of the meeting packet. Chair would call upon Committee Chair Marlo Richardson, Jesse Flores, and Missy Vickery.
Good afternoon. So we're going to go into the enforcement program update. We're still going through the recruitment process for hiring a new chief of enforcement. So again, congratulations to Dave on your appointment to Registrar. Luckily, we still have a great enforcement management team, so they're still working hard and doing what it is that they do. So today, we are going to have Deputy Chief of Enforcement Jesse Flores, who will provide the program update.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's kind of bittersweet for us in enforcement. It's bitter because we lost a chief of over 14 years of enforcement. Is that louder? You just got to talk louder. Yes, sir. But we didn't lose him because he's still with us. He's our registrar, so he's going to probably implement more enforcement stuff that we have to do. So we're looking forward to that. Congrats, Dave. And so today I'm going to go over the enforcement, some of the highlights, a couple highlights, and we have a special guest here today I'll mention as soon as I'm done. On page 238, on the top, Mr. Adrian Rivas. He's notorious for the Northern County scamming, landscaper scammer. Well, we were lucky because we were able to, he was moving on to Oregon, and he was scamming people in Oregon, and we worked with a Santa Clara DA, and we got him extradited to California. And as of May, he's facing 24 additional felonies and misdemeanors. And, we'll keep you posted as he gets his day in court. And a workers' comp on page 238 at the bottom, a tragic accident where an employee died because a bulldozer rode over him that he was operating, and the contractor did not have workers' comp. As a result, he's being prosecuted for some of those violations, and it's tragic all over. Someone lost their life, and had someone had a policy, who knows, it would have probably taken care of the family a little better. But as you can see, workers' comp is a tough issue for the Cslb, and we're always working on it, and we're trying to make it improve it and address it in the community. Page 239 at the bottom. We have the family of thieves. They're travelers that go throughout the nation and scam people. In this case, they were doing they were seal coating scam against our elderly, We caught 2 of them. 2 of them pled guilty in May and they're in 2 years in jail. The family didn't stop because other members joined. And in April, we targeted 4 other ones. We contacted a homeowner, and our SWIFT team got them. We got them NTA. Santa Clara DA is looking at prosecuting the guys, and we'll keep you posted on another one our enforcement team is tackling. Along the lines of that, regarding the travelers, we have a special guest here, Contractors Board. So Mr. Rosario is going to come up and present to you an overview of what they face with these travelers in their state. So, Mr. Rosario? And then when you're done, we'll just show the video.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, board members, I appreciate the opportunity to come in and speak with you this afternoon. Travelers make an estimated $14 billion annually in the United States and do so without paying any taxes. Their groups could be 3rd or 4th generation American, and they trace their heritage back to Yugoslavia, Romania, Poland, Hungary, Ireland, England, or Scotland. Travelers can be found in communities across the United States. They have 1 or more home bases, but often travel to other areas and states to perpetuate their crimes. They will remain in the area for a couple of weeks before moving on to another location to exploit. This allows them to make money and leave before law enforcement discovers their presence and the extent of their criminal activities. These organizations, clans, or families utilize different criminal enterprises such as home invasions, distraction thefts, insurance and financial frauds, and home repairs. Criminal enterprise is taught and encouraged among the family. It is a culture of crime. Home repairs is the primary concern of both staffs in California and Nevada. They are unlicensed contractors and utilize a scam or con and respectful to the victim. It is estimated that the elderly are the victims of the travelers approximately 95% of the time. The primary trades that they promote are asphalt paving and roof work. They will often approach a potential victim stating that they did some work paving or sealing a driveway. They will quote a price to the victim and apply the material. Often the material is subpar, grade, or diluted. After the material is applied or installed, they will then go to the victim and demand more money, claiming that the quote was only for a portion of the work that was performed and not for the entire job. They will get aggressive with the homeowner and oftentimes escort the homeowner to withdraw funds from the bank. They will utilize a roofing scam against elderly, to which they will approach an elderly person at their home and advise them that they have serviced their roof a couple of years ago and that they are there for a complimentary inspection. Because a person is elderly, they may be embarrassed of the fact they don't remember that person coming to their house before, but they allow them access to the roof. The travelers then make some noise on the roof and then advise the victim that repairs are needed on the roof for a minor fee. The victim agrees, at which time one of the travelers goes on the roof and makes some noise and comes down, to which they make the false repairs and advise the victim that the repairs required more materials. And now the quote is 3 or 4 times the amount that they initially quoted. They again pressure the victim as they did in the sealant scheme. If a traveler finds an easy victim, they are known to go back to that victim within a couple weeks before they leave town and attempt to exploit more money from that individual. Because the victims are elderly, they often are hesitant to report the crime because they are embarrassed and feel that they would lose their independence if their family is aware of their victimization. In April of this year, the Nevada State Contractors Board identified a traveling group operating in Reno under an unlicensed contractor named International Seal Coating and Paving, who were targeting senior homeowners with a door-to-door solicitation scam to apply blacktop or driveway sealant in exchange for cash payment. A 10-year-old child was even observed with them. And they were driving trucks with out-of-state Texas license plates. The suspects carry a colorful brochure and show homeowners a sample of their product that looks like a thick and durable material, which they use to legitimatize their service and negotiate discounted rates to perform the work. Once a homeowner agrees to cash payment is made up front, another suspect will continue to negotiate other services which they can perform with the homeowner, while another quickly sprays a thin layer of coating on the agreed upon surfaces. The crew quickly packs up the materials and leaves the area. Victims have paid suspects from $3,000 to $5,000 for the service. And a lot of this coating that's placed on these driveways is, it has to be removed because it's not coating. The investigation identified that the group made approximately $30,000 in Reno over a 3-week period. And that's only $30,000 that was reported to law enforcement. After leaving Reno, the suspects traveled to Sacramento where the activities were identified by the California board. This group was traced to operate in Oregon, Florida, and in Georgia. The group was identified, the NSCB has filed a criminal complaint with the Washoe County District Attorney's Office for multiple felony theft charges against the only 2 identified suspects that we know of that are part of the clan. I personally would like to thank the California Board's investigators for their cooperation and coordination with the case, and it really helped us in identifying and putting forth our complaint packages to the DA's office. Because of the continuing and growing threat of crimes perpetrated by travelers, law enforcement across the U.S. continues to gather and coordinate intelligence on traveler groups so that these criminals could be more quickly identified, arrested, and prosecuted. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may potentially have regarding travelers, if you have any. I think we've got Rick's got a video that the California Board is preparing. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
They were fast talking and moving, and they started over here.
In early March, the California Board began investigating a case of alleged elder abuse. The victim, a 68-year-old widow, reported that unlicensed workers came to her home near Sacramento and intimidated her into seal coating the driveway to repair damages from the winter rains.
They said, okay, that'll be $16,000. And I said, are you crazy?
She gave them a check to get them to leave, but she later became suspicious and stopped payment on the check she had given them. She contacted CSLB and identified Johnny Costello and others from his extended family as the group responsible. The group has a long history of traveling state to state and scamming unsuspecting victims along the way. CSLB's Northern Swift Unit, with help from the Sacramento District Attorney's Office, conducted a sting operation the next day at the victim's residence. The suspects were invited to return to the victim's home to collect another form of payment.
Is that the boss or is Johnny the boss?
They each have a truck, so they're both bosses.
Kind of like partners?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty, I'm gonna give you the
And they
check.
were both out here yesterday.
2 women who represented the Costello's company arrived, and both were arrested for conspiracy, financial elder abuse, grand theft, theft by false pretenses, burglary, and contracting without a license. Additionally, the District Attorney's Office seized a 2017 Suburban SUV, $45,824 in cash, and $200,000 worth of jewelry that the women had in their possession when they were arrested. Following the arrests, CSLB distributed a press release about the fraudulent activity. After seeing a local news story, 2 more elderly victims in Wilton reported being scammed in a similar fashion. In these cases, the 2 victims paid over $23,000 for seal coating.
One of the key elements in this case was the elderly victim felt that she'd been taken advantage of and immediately stopped payment on her checks, then contacted the Contractors State Licensing Board to report the issue. The end result was the 2 ladies that were arrested in Wilton pled guilty, sentenced to jail, and all of the victims were paid restitution on the money that was seized by the Sacramento County District Attorney's Office.
A few weeks later, the Nevada Board issued a consumer alert for members of the same group who were believed to be working in the Reno and Carson City area. California investigators also had contact with one of those suspects, so both boards shared information and started working together on the case. 1 week later, a consumer tip led California investigators to a home near San Jose where they caught the 2 lead suspects, Johnny and Frank Costello. Both were given a notice to appear in court for contracting without a license, unlicensed advertising, and having employees without workers' compensation insurance. Further investigation may lead to additional charges for grand theft and theft by false pretenses.
The success of this operation was based on the active networking with the state of Nevada, the state of Oregon, the state of Florida, Georgia, and Texas. The networking abilities are paramount when pursuing transient criminals who travel across the country, victimizing senior citizens wherever they go.
Thank you, Mr. Rosario, and thank you, Rick. I'd like to move on to the, our general complaint handling statistics. On page 243, our caseload has slightly went up, but it remains to be manageable by our staff. On page 244, I want to talk about the settlements. As you can see there, there's about $15 million in settlements. Those are settlements that we reach with licensees, and that's a cooperative effort where licensees come in and work with us and agree to return some money to consumers so that they can get their projects continued. So we have a great staff that handles that in our case management unit. On 245, you can see we maintain our average closures of goals of 10. We continue to maintain that, given the challenges of staffing as all our divisions have at the CSLB. On the bottom of page 246, I just want to make a note that we only take legal actions against those egregious contractors. So as you can see, those are the ones that the really bad guys that we go after. So yeah, we do work with these contracts, as you saw in the settlement. If they make a mistake, we allow them to correct it, rectify it. But those bad guys, we just want to make sure that we take an action against. Our SWIFT team stats on page 247. They continue to maintain, as you saw from the video, that's one of our SWIFT supervisors who takes care of these kind of cases. On a Saturday, this past June, we're thinking outside the box. We sent out investigator work with our Santa Clara DA counties, and we resulted in 14 sites being investigated, issued 3 NTAs and two citations, and we have 3 follow-ups. So this is just something, think outside the box at our SWIFT unit. We're just trying to be surprised to our consumers. They get used to our stings and sweeps. So we did a Saturday sting working with the Santa Clara DA, and it resulted in a positive effect, and we had a presence out there. On page 250, if you notice the center where it says Mandatory Settlement Conference, that $2.5 million is what we've saved on legal costs from resolving complaints in-house. So we always try to reduce our costs everywhere we can so that Stacy's not screaming at us about our budget with the AGs. And so, you know, this is something that we do. Our MSC program has been very successful, and you know, I hope we try to expand it to different counties so that we can make sure we serve everyone. Last, I'd like to just talk about our training. In 2017, we've had significant training working with CSLB staff and retired annuitant named Doug Galbraith, who developed these programs, Attorney General's office. In 2017, we have several sessions in the future coming forward, and so we're focusing on, like I said, the Saturday was SWIFT, thinking outside the box. We're working with our SWIFT and how to be creative in our sweeps to get the bigger targets, you know, not the low-hanging fruit, looking at the larger project so that we can make a better impact in the community. So that concludes what I have. Any questions?
Through the chair, if I may, just quick, great work, Nevada and California, and the other ones on the travelers. That brought a real nice smile to my face. Anybody taking advantage of our elderly deserves to go to jail. Great job. And even better, collecting that $45,000 in cash that we were able to get back to the victims. You're ever in Santa Clara County doing a SWIFT on a Saturday and would like a board member to do a ride-along, call me. Last thing, on page 240, 241, one of the things, and I appreciate you not reading all the different deals, This RMO problem about people renting out their RMOs, I'm really glad to see the board finding one of these. I know they're hard to find, but when you do find them, peel back that onion layer, and that's just, it's a deceitful practice, and if somebody can't maintain or achieve the minimum qualifications to be a licensed contractor, and they're trying to subvert it by using an RMO that's not engaged, they deserve to get in trouble. So
Yeah,
great job.
It's a challenge that we have in enforcement. It's coming up more and more. In this case, this guy doesn't realize that not only may he lose his license, but any other license he's associated with if we're successful in an accusation. So.
Thank you, Jesse. So we're going to move on to, any board discussion on this item? Thank you.
Actually, I did have one question. Do we cross-reference, Laura, in our licensing to see if a qualifier is on, we max out at 3, right?
For the most part, you can qualify 3 licenses in a year.
So do we cross-reference to see if somebody's qualified on 10 licenses? We know that fact, right?
We do check, yeah, when issuing new licenses or when someone's trying to qualify a new license, yeah. If there is a relationship, a corporate relationship between the different licenses, at times they're able to qualify more than 3, but.
Okay.
Thank you. Any public comment on that item? Okay, moving on to agenda item F2, the update on workers' compensation enforcement strategies, resources, and accomplishments. Missy Vickery, please.
Thank you. The Enforcement Division staff have been working hard to identify licensed contractors who have workers' comp exemptions on file. Beginning in late 2015, we identified that 57% of all licensees have exemptions from workers' comp on file. We looked at 6 different classifications that were most likely to require a good amount of workers, and we found that of those, 54% had exemptions on file from workers' comp. In 2016, we began a pilot program where we identified 143 contractors with exemptions on file and evidence of employee labor on their website. We sent educational letters to each and every one of those, telling them that we were going to increase our enforcement in this area and asking them if they had workers, and we urged them to obtain a policy. We had a 10% compliance rate, which was not as much as we would have hoped for. But in 2017, we stepped up our efforts and did additional research and targeting. At the February 2017 Enforcement Committee meeting, board members asked staff to research the average amount of the contract for those contractors who had an exemption on file and had an active complaint filed. We researched over a 3-month period of time, 2,100 complaints, and found out that 750 of those contractors had exemptions on file. The average contract amount was over $47,000, so they were quite large jobs that they were undertaking. We then also looked at the B general building contractor and did some research into that. CSLB records indicate that 64% of all B general building contractors have active exemptions from workers' comp on file. So at the March 2017 board meeting, the board staff recommended that we research and find out which percentage of those contractors who had complaints also had an active exemption on file. We looked at over 20 active complaints of B general contractors who had those exemptions on file. We contacted the consumers and were able to confirm that 15 of those had said that the contractor that they contracted with had workers on their jobs. 5 individuals indicated that the contractor used subcontractors. This mirrors the 64% statewide rate for B general building contractors who have active workers' comp exemptions on file. In 2017, we also established a Sacramento County pilot program where our Sacramento Swift staff did some proactive enforcement. They looked at 4 different classifications that would generally require workers that perform the work outdoors. Of those, it was like concrete and landscaping contractors and tree service contractors. Using the following strategies, Sacramento Swift staff were able to, 1, research CSLB databases and find the contractors that were in those specific 4 classifications that had a Sacramento County building address with exemptions on file. Number 2, we also called and visited or observed work locations to determine if there was employee labor or perhaps a fleet of vehicles which would indicate that there was more than one person working for that company. We also had an approved script where we contacted exempt licensees to have them speak with our staff, and most of them were professing that they had workers who could take on contracts. The percentage that claimed exemptions, you'll see on page 256 of your package. You'll notice that on each of those 4 classifications, 3 of the 4 have an exemption rate on false exemption rate on file of over 60%. With the exception of earthwork and paving, which is 17%, we believe that's largely due to like Bobcat drivers who are doing the work themselves and don't employ other employees. For those workers that admitted that they had employees when they were called up randomly, we issued, we're in the process of issuing exemptions to their work, canceling their workers' comp exemptions. And we're going to send them a letter and invite them back into our office so we can discuss and possibly issue an admonishment letter to them. Future strategies. We're going to assess the effectiveness of our Sacramento pilot program and possibly duplicate this strategy in other geographical areas. We're going to provide data to interested parties such as the legislature so they may want to consider proposing legislation requiring certain classifications to require workers' comp for all of that classification, such as what you spoke of. We're going to meet with the Bureau of Real Estate to address agents who are representing house flippers who refer unlicensed or underinsured contractors, as well as working with California building officials to address house flippers who use unlicensed contractors and or don't qualify for the owner-builder exemptions. Last, part of the pilot program for the Sacramento County was to go out and invite some D49 tree trimmers out to a sting location. And this was a different type of sting that we were doing because most of the time we're going against unlicensed contractors, but these were licensed contractors who had filed what we believed false workers' comp exemptions on file. So the first day they invited them out to get bids and assess the project and ask them if they had a crew big enough to perform this work, which they did, and most of those contracts came in at about $3,000. The second time they were invited back out is that they were told that they got those contracts. No contract was signed, but they were told that we'll sign it at the job site. And unfortunately, it was raining heavily in Sacramento that day, so only 2 of the 4 individuals showed up. But both of them showed up with their workers. One had a crew of 5 workers with the 2 people who were part of the business, and 4 late model vehicles. Looks like a large business. Those individuals were issued stop work orders, and we're looking at possible misdemeanor charges with working with the Sacramento County DA. So that concludes my presentation. I'd like to thank you for your time and attendance. Any questions?
Thank you, Missy.
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I have a question. And maybe Dave can chime in here too. You know, I really appreciate the follow-up on this issue. I thought it was very well presented. And your future strategies are well documented also. And I didn't know whether there's something that we as board members could assist you in furthering your pilot project here. I don't know if you think that you could maybe get some additional dollars and if you
Well, I would like to come back to you with further development of these future strategies and also tie in the reduction and the processing of workers' comp policies. I think it kind of all runs together, and you're correct. It may be something that we would want to present to the board as an expenditure, because if we're going to take this very seriously, we may need to spend some overtime dollars. That's one thought that I've had. It may require a redirection of some enforcement staff to take this statewide. You'll see where the proposal is to work with the Bureau of Real Estate. I think it's important. Also, though, to work with the Department of Insurance to maximize our resources. So my thought would be that we would come back to either the enforcement, probably the enforcement committee or the licensing committee with additional development of this and the processing of workers' comp policies. We want to bring value to the licensees that do have a workers' comp policy.
Any other board comments?
Bravo.
Thank you. Any public comment? Okay. We're going to go to agenda item F3, the update and discussion on consumer satisfaction survey. Chief of Licensing, Laura, please. You want to go to the podium or no?
Super. Well, good to hear from you again. Awesome. This starts on page 261, the summary of the consumer satisfaction survey. So we've got just a brief executive summary on page 261. In 2016, we received a total of 1,657 complaints, and 21% of those surveyed responded to the questionnaire. So it's a similar response rate. And then you can see the question statements on page 262, along with the percentage agreement by year. So there's 8 questions, and then the numbers stay pretty consistent. We showed an increase on question number 4, which was treated courteously, so that's good news for us. And the no other category changed more than 2%. 42% of people responded yes, that they checked the contractor's license status with CSLB, and that's consistent with the prior year. And then the majority of complaints were filed by non-industry consumers, so typical consumer complaints. Any questions?
Thank you, Laura, for your triple duty here today. All right. Any board discussion?
You want some more?
I will be back to you with IT later.
That's so true.
Any board discussion? No. Any public comment on this item? That will conclude the enforcement section. Thank you.
Thank you very much, enforcement. Very clear and concise report. We move to public affairs. Rick Lowe.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. The Public Affairs Committee did not meet since our last board meeting, so our report today consists of our program updates, which you can see starts on page 284. It begins with the online highlights, and I'll just point out just a couple of things. If you look towards the lower left in the first 2 columns, we've got the sessions and the users. You'll note that since the first of this year, we've actually seen an uptick in the number of people that are utilizing our website. You see now we're consistently over 700,000 sessions per month by over 300,000 users. So you see some steady growths there. On page 285, it shows the kinds of devices. Things have kind of held steady between desktop computers, mobile computers and mobile devices and tablets. And then at the bottom of that page, you see the location of users. Obviously, the vast majority in the U.S. and the vast majority of the states, it's here in California. On page 286, this is a chart that we've presented in previous meetings. We have changed things around, so I'll spend just a couple moments to give the members a closer look. We were asked to provide you with information on the most viewed pages on our website. What we've done is, far and away, the license lookup feature and the different online services we have. For applicants, they can look up the status of their application. Other online services we have, those are not included. These, once you get away from those, these are the top pages. And what we've done here is we're going to break it out by quarter. So the most recent quarter, you'll see there in that first column is the numbers from January through March. And instead of giving you a bunch of numbers on how many times the pages were accessed, we just rank them. So you see in that first column, you'll see it go all the way 1 through 25. So that's currently where the most popular pages on our website. Then on the next column, as you go back to the previous 3 months before that, and you see where those pages fell. For the most part, we see little movements here or there. Number 17 went to 18, and things moved around a little bit, but you don't see lots of movement. Then you'll see the previous 3 months before that. So that's where those pages rank. So you can see the top 10 is fairly consistent, and these would be considered the most popular pages. Obviously, forms and applications, contractors, the different classifications, so a lot of things geared towards the licensees. You do see some consumer things. The mechanics lien release is very popular. Get in contact with us. So that's kind of how that chart, and we'll come back to you on each meeting. We'll kind of update that in the columns. We'll move along, but you see that's how we are standing right now. On page 287, we get into our digital services. I'm not going to get into a lot of details on this. Over the next few pages, you just see our social media. On 288, you see some of the examples of some of the posts that we have on our social media sites. We're using lots of graphics, and that's really helped uptick the number of people who are clicking and responding to that. And as you continue on through page 290 and 291, it's all of our different social media platforms. As we get on to page 292, this is the ongoing chart of our email alert system. These are the current number of emails that we have. We have people can either come to our website, sign up to receive some of the different things from industry bulletins to meeting notices to our newsletter to our news releases and job openings. When we've combined our database with the people who've signed up to the people who have actually provided us with their email addresses, you can see we've got a total of 173,000 email addresses. So still, when you take into account the 146,400 licensees, that is a little bit over half of our licensees. So just to give you an idea of where we stand as far as having their email addresses. On the bottom of 292, is the media calls that we've received. Any of the board members who were here a little earlier today, you may have seen me in the back of the room being interviewed. There was the ABC station in San Diego was here. We're doing a story that will air next week. So we do have contact on pretty much a daily basis with different members of the media and do a lot of work there. On page 293, we do have our list of news releases. I'll draw your alert to the March 8th one. It was the one that the video covered. We talked a little bit about the transient traveling criminals. That was the statewide alert that we did for that. I'd also just briefly draw your attention to our April 21st and June 1st releases, because that had to do with the final closure of the Berkeley balcony collapse cases. So we did have news releases that were associated with the completion of our work and the revocation of a license in that case. On page 294, into our publications, I'll just draw your attention to the in development section. This is something that's in our strategic plan that you'll note, but I wanted to let you know that we are actually making very good progress on our three main publications. Our consumer publication, we have received legal approval now. We're in final layouts, and that's about to go to the printers. The contractor publication and the applicant publications, the drafts are done. We have some final internal reviews from some of our subject experts that are helping us with that. Then they'll be going off to legal. We're going to keep Christy awfully busy for the next couple of months. Yes, and so, and she's been great about turning things around as quickly as possible. But that's just to give you an idea that those are moving along now that we are fully staffed. Things are moving along very well. And then moving on to 295, you see our senior scam stoppers, and the list goes on to 296. You can see today and tomorrow we've got senior scam stoppers. We are in the East Bay today in Castro Valley, tomorrow in Fremont. Then we've got 3 of them scheduled for Southern California next week, and you can see the schedule continuing. As always, we're more than happy and welcome to board member participation. So if you see something in your area, or maybe there is a lawmaker that you would be interested in making contact with, we'd be happy to work with you. If you'd like to, please get in touch with us. And then we continue on to 296 and 297 with our consumer scam stoppers. A similar type of presentation, but it focuses on all consumers, not just seniors. And so you can see that list there. And then finally on 297 and 298, you see just the update on our Cslb bin, which is our intranet site, which is only available to Cslb staff. And that gives you a couple of ideas there on some of the posts that we've done for that. And Mr. Chair, that concludes the public affairs update.
Do we have questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question. Thank you. Got you back.
Are there any questions from the board?
Yes.
Marlo, would that be you?
Yes, thank you. Just a quick question, Rick. So the webcast, since Periscope is kind of seeming to go down, it's not as popular anymore. I noticed that a lot of other social medias are having their live broadcasts. Are we doing anything live with the Facebook or Instagram?
We've not done any live with Instagram. We have done some live on Facebook Live, and we actually, last week, we actually received new phones in public affairs, which were actually built this century. And so we're going to be able to, one of our challenges, quite frankly, is we were using a very old phone, and the service, it was like, I think it was a 3G phone. So it was a little challenging. So we've got better equipment now, so I certainly can foresee us doing more of that. Earlier in the meeting, we talked about webcasts, and we have a lot of different things that we would like to do. Now that we've got that ability, we're going to be doing more of it.
So I'm just curious, do you currently have enough staff to support all of the things that you're trying to do?
Well, sometimes there's a little bit of juggling, but I'm very lucky that our staff, they have lots of different talents. Our most recent hire is somebody who's got a little bit of a graphics background too, so sometimes we're able to kind of give double duty, give us something, maybe some of our simpler graphic things to kind of relieve the graphic designer, and we all kind of wear many hats. You'll see us running around pulling cables and doing other things here. So luckily, with the 6 full-time staff that we have, we're very efficient. And so right now, we realize that it's challenging times, but the things that float up that we feel are the important things are where we put our attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comment? Anything from the public? Thank you, Rick. We move on to the executive portion of our meeting packet, page 299. Agenda item number 1 would be review and possible approval of the March 13, 14, March 30th, 2017 board meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Questions from the public? Questions from the board? Aaron, roll call, please. Christie.
I would just suggest adding Noreen Marks as legal counsel for the March 30th board meeting.
Okay.
I did not attend that meeting. It was Noreen Marks.
Which date was that?
March
The
30th.
Okay. You have that noted, Aaron? Yes. Okay. Any other corrections or changes? No? Anything else from the public? Anything else from the board? Roll call, please.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran.
Aye.
Linda Clifford. Aye. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Second order of business is Personnel, Facilities, and Administration update. Mike Maliza, Chief Administration, come on up.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I will kindly direct you to page 328 of your board packet, and we will begin with the personnel update. We'll start with recruitment. During the third quarter fiscal year 2016-17, CSLB personnel staff completed 31 personnel transactions. Among those, 7 employees were recruited from other state agencies that joined us, and 3 brand-new employees to state service also were hired, so we're welcoming them to our organization. Most importantly, though, 16 employees were promoted within CSLB, which again reflects our commitment to mentoring and training and our focus of giving our employees the best opportunities for upward mobility. This leads to effective recruiting and overall staff retention. Also, in terms of upward mobility, the personnel unit hosted another session this week in a series of career consulting classes. This course covers how to apply for jobs on the new CalHR jobs website, how to complete an application package, how to prepare yourself for an interview, as well as how to maximize one's potential in state service, and especially at the CSLB. That class was open to all the staff at headquarters in the Northern California field offices, and we'll have another subsequent session to cover all the staff in the Southern California field offices. At the previous board meeting, I reported that this class was given to all of our entire enforcement division. So the next few classes will wrap up everything, and all the staff will be covered there. Okay, we'll move on to employment examinations on page 329 of your packet. The Enforcement Representative 2 examination was conducted in April. Results were released in May. The Enforcement Representative 1 was administered last week. That was on the 3rd in Southern California, and on June 10th in Sacramento. So that was just earlier this week. Staff expects the Enforcement Representative 1 and 2 examinations to be held again in November and December of this year. This should give the CSLB Enforcement Division an ample pool of qualified candidates to assist in filling any vacancies that they may have. DCA and CalHR offer several other examinations throughout the year, and that's shown on the table on page 330. Okay. We'll move on to the facilities, procurement, and fleet activity updates. That starts on page 331. I'll just highlight the Sacramento headquarters lease renewal. That's the biggest one we're working on right now. Everything's on target. The Department of General Services Space Planner finally completed the proposed plans to present to the current lessor to begin the lease renewal negotiations. The proposed upgrades and modifications include a new security kiosk in the front lobby. That's important to us. A new card reader system throughout the building. The ones that we have are the one that we have in place is aging and sometimes doesn't work right. And then replacement of all current media projectors, and a new media room for Rick's Public Affairs Office. That's going to be exciting to have, a new tool for them. And of course, once we get everything signed off, we'll get a new coat of paint, and carpet needs to be replaced too. So we're in good shape there. The projected completion date is December 2018. I checked with the Department of Consumer Affairs. They seem to feel that everything's going to be on target and delivered on time. Okay. A list of contracts and procurements are on page 332 if you would like to go through those. Otherwise, I'm going to direct you to page 333, and we'll talk about our fleet of vehicles. And I'll conclude my report with this. We're requesting a replacement of aging vehicles in our fleet. These vehicles, again, meet all the requirements outlined by the Department of General Services. They're vehicles that have excessive mileage, demonstrate excessive cost to maintain, and of course, they have to, they're no longer safe for our staff to drive out in the field, especially our enforcement staff. So the list of the vehicles that we've requested are on that page 333. We submitted that request to the department on April 18th. It's currently being reviewed by the DGS. Staff expects a decision on the request before the end of this fiscal year. If approved, the vehicle should be delivered, we're thinking around November or December, sometime in the fall, in the winter. And so that's it. We have 3 Ford Fusions and 6 Chevrolet Impalas ordered. Hopefully we'll get all those. And that concludes my Administration Division report. If you have any questions, I'll field those from you now.
Anything from the board? Yes, Linda.
Sure.
Hit your mic, please.
Just a quick question. The purchase of the pallet lifter, I guess a forklift maybe, and the warehouse inventory management system, are those both going into Sacramento too?
Are those going to Sacramento?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else from the board? I have a question.
Yes.
Are you hiring directly out of the colleges, or are you recruiting from other entities for enforcement?
We're always looking at different ways to reach out. We're basically just going through the state process. A lot of who we get are from online because they have to apply online. So we're always just pushing. I know Rick's Group's always pushing our vacancies on our website and also the other social media vehicles. So yeah, wherever we can, we're getting our name out there. We're trying to look for the best and brightest. We have a student here in the office here today, probably by Pastor. So we're graduated actually. So we're always trying to figure out new ways to reach out. But that's a great idea to go out to the colleges and spend some time out there.
Anything else from the board? Yes, Pastor.
Mr. Chair, have you been receiving referrals from LinkedIn? I know you had mentioned that as one of the people, Rick, that you had contacted. Are there any referrals from LinkedIn, as far as you know?
Actually, he's asking if we know if we've any job referrals from LinkedIn.
Oh, LinkedIn.
We have people that respond and interact with listings that we post on LinkedIn, but we haven't had any, we don't have the paid job posting service, so we don't actually get any responses on LinkedIn.
Once they apply online too, we don't know if they came through a LinkedIn or whatever. That's a good comment. I think what I'll do is I'll bring that back to our the department and find out if we can get that kind of feedback.
Yeah, it would be nice, I think, if you guys could hit up the criminology classes at the CSUs or the UCs, and especially the last classes when the kids are about to graduate college. You know, we get them young, maybe we build a little loyalty and they can stick around for 30 years.
Yeah.
From the union guy. Well done. 'Cause
Yeah, I mean, yeah. We
Those are
all
great
like to
ideas.
Get them young and train them the way we want to train them, and then we keep them, and we just don't send them to the police academy, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Not that it's a bad thing, we just don't want to lose them.
Exactly, exactly.
Anything from the public? Anything else from the board? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Who's back? It's Laura with the information technology update.
I will try to keep this one brief.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So this is on page 336 of your packet. I do want to highlight the first item we have about online smart forms. Both the IT division and licensing staff have been working really hard to develop smart forms. As you know, we have a high error rate on our applications and they're returned for correction quite frequently. So we have 10 smart forms that we've released. We have 9 more in development. We're really hoping these reduce the error rate in our applications and will speed up the process. Let's see, as we mentioned, we're implementing the fee increase. That'll take effect July 1st. There was legislation last year, it was actually AB 2486, requiring us to provide the geographical or zip code search for contractors. That'll be in place by January 1, 2019. That's in process. We're working on developing the as-is business processes and 2B as it relates to the online licensing project, whether it's Breeze or another system. That'll be hopefully mid to late 2018 will be done. And then there's some information on the interactive voice response, the IVR system, and you have the top request on the next page. So this is a phone system where people can go to request certain information, applications, et cetera. And then we have staff that respond from the appropriate units.
Thank you, Laura. Anything from the board? Yes, Nancy.
Just for me, smart form meaning like, so if they complete it, if
Yeah,
they
so
don't
it's
answer it right, it pops it back or something?
Right, exactly. So it's a PDF they fill out online, and if they don't fill out the box correctly, a lot of times the reason an application's returned is that they didn't sign a particular line or check a box, so it won't let them go forward and submit the form if it's not filled out.
Anything else from the board? Anything from the public? Anything from Christie? Okay. I think I'm not going to be chair after this, so I figure I might as well get whatever I can in. Any last shots, yeah. Okay, budget update. Stacy Paul, come on down.
Okay, I'll try to speak up as loud as possible. So if you turn to page 340, the first chart shows our budget and expenditures through through the month of April. We're doing great, no surprises, 77% spent of our budget, which is right on track, actually a little bit under, so we're good. The chart directly below is our revenue, and you'll see that we're up 1.5% overall from the same time last year. Then if you turn to the next page, it's our fund condition. And this is projecting out to 2018-19. So in the red, you'll see our fee increase, which goes into effect next month, and how much we're projecting we're going to receive from that based on the fees. You'll see it's putting us in a health reserve, so we should be good 2018-19 at 2.4 months, so we should be pretty good. The next page is our construction management education account. As you all know, we've had that on hold since 2014. We're kind of looking like the donations are steadily increasing, so if that continues, maybe by 2018-19, maybe 2019-20, we should be able to, bring that account back so we can start dispersing grants back to the schools. And then on the following pages is our statistical summary. This is basically a snapshot of the numbers on a monthly basis from now back to 2013, so you can compare it. As Susan said in the licensing update, to me, from what I can see from the stats, licensing staff has been processing more applications, which has resulted in 20% increase of original licenses issued compared to last year. So it looks pretty good to me. That concludes budget update. Any questions?
Anything from the board?
Linda? Linda?
Now I'll turn on my mic.
Okay.
I'd love to suggest that you guys consider doing the construction management deals earlier than 19.
I'm thinking 18, 19. We
okay.
should be good.
I mean, it looks to me like you could start as early as you know, I mean, for sure next year.
Right.
But even, you know, because it does make a difference.
I just don't want to put it back on because we
Right.
have to give 150,000.
Right.
And so if we do that and then we have to stop it again, so.
Right. No, I think that's great, but.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't go to 19 if you don't have to.
I know.
Okay. I see that we're going to start getting our statutory fee increases in 17 and in 18. In other words, right here, July here shortly,
Yes.
right? And there's a significant jump in the disbursements. I mean, it's significant in that it's, you know, it's over $1 million, right? So I was just curious, do we think that's gonna, I mean, are we being is what we're being is conservative?
That's basically being conservative, what the governor's budget, what we typically get.
Okay.
So we don't usually spend that. So you got to keep that in mind.
Right.
This projected current fiscal year is correct of what I expect us to spend, but next year, that's the budgeted authority.
Right. Because I mean, 3.5 is great. I mean.
Yes.
And so, okay. And I just did want to say, just like you said, the original license issues, I mean, the number percentage, I think licensing, I mean, good job, Laura and the whole group. I mean, the percent of licenses issued on the original apps
Yes.
is so significantly higher. I mean, it's measurably, and it's in the right, not only in the right direction, but it's in the right numbers. You know, so good job to everybody who's working on that. Thank you.
Perfect. Anybody else?
That wasn't too bad.
No.
Anyone from the public? Christie? Update, discussion, and possible action, 2016-18 strategic plan. David Fote, our new registrar.
Well, thank you. The strategic plan has already been vetted through the committees, but there are a couple of updates that I want to share today. One is on page 348, items 1.3 and 1.4. We added target dates. In the public affairs section on page 350, we pushed back the target dates by 1 month for objectives 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4. Otherwise, the strategic objective remains the same as discussed during the committee meetings. Happy to answer any questions regarding it. The last board meeting?
Yes, the March board meeting, the board already went through the whole thing.
So the chair would entertain a motion to add and change the target dates.
So moved.
There's a motion, a second. Albanese and Herrera. On the question from the board, anybody on the board have any questions or comments? Yes,
The
Susan.
comment I would have is when we make those changes in the future on something, I like they are put together here. It makes sense. But can you indicate the changes in some way, note them, so that we can easily see what those are and remember next time?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah. In a different color, or happy face.
Happy face, absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else on the board? Anyone from the public? Legal concerns? No? All right. Aaron, please call roll.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran.
Aye.
Linda Clifford. David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Rosella. Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino. Johnny Simpson. Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Very good. David, Registrar's report.
Our next two board meetings are scheduled for Monterey, September of 2017, and then December 2017 in San Jose. Aaron Schultz will be surveying all of you for your availability.
So when will we know, it's June, when will we know those dates, or, and when will we, I mean, I know that's difficult, but when will we know what the dates will be for the next meeting in September?
I'll reach out within the next 2 weeks to establish those. Just, yeah. A week.
Okay.
So Aaron will survey everyone next week.
Yes, yes.
Can do that?
Yes, Counselor.
Okay, I do have a comment on this one. So I would like to request that the week of September 11th not be scheduled during that week, because I have another board meeting that week. And if you don't mind, if someone
I could never
else.
imagine having a meeting without you.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
it's your
ban
call.
the
If
week
that-
of September
Whatever works
11th.
for you is more important, but just to let you know that I have a meeting that week, and I would
I'm
request.
taking chair's privilege. We're not going to do it that
Oh,
week.
you don't know what I have to do to prepare. It's a 3-day meeting. Thank you.
You're welcome. With peace and love, as Ringo would say. Anything else, Registrar? He's going to doodle us in the next week.
Well, I just would like to thank Laura and Rick for all they've done and helped put this meeting together, and both of them stepping up in the absence of some of the higher level leadership positions. So thank you both.
All right. Anything else from the board on this very brief Registrar's report? Thank you for that, by the way. Very appreciated. Anything from the public on the brief Registrar's report? No. I just want to say, David, I'm very excited to see what you and your team will be bringing to us in the next year. So, with that, we move to the election of 17 for the 18 board officers. The nomination committee was David Diaz and Ed Lang, and Board Member Lang has a presentation for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The vote for 3 board officers' position will be held in the following order, and that's chair, vice chair, and secretary. For each office, I will nominate the candidate for our committee, recommends, and I'll then ask for if there are any other individuals the board would like to nominate for that office. All floor nomination will require second, and another board member to be considered for the full board, by the full board if necessary. Candidates will then be given up to 2 minutes of floor times to make the statement or describe why they are qualified for the position. Then we will take a roll call vote and each nominee in alphabetical order by the candidate's last name. That's the background of when we move forward. Members can vote by yes, no, or abstain. The first nominee to receive a majority vote will win that officer's position. The newly elected chair, vice chair, and secretary will assume duties of their respective offices at the conclusion of the meeting which they were elected, which will be after we adjourn tomorrow. So you're not up yet there. You got another day. Now let's go for the chair. I will now proceed to nomination of the office of the chair. Our committee recommends nomination Kevin Albanese.
Second.
For the office of chair. Are there any other nominations from the floor? I have to go through this, you know. Are there any other nominations from the floor? Hearing and seeing none, I guess we have enough time to do that. Okay. I now close the nomination. We'll now do a roll call vote. And would you go through that?
Christie, do you have, you're
We close
looking
the
around,
nomination,
is there an
Madam
issue?
Chair?
Well, I just wondered if you wanted to make a statement at all. That was one
Oh,
of the
okay.
things that.
Yeah.
And do we have to ask public comment on the nominations too? Okay, so Ed, you gotta ask.
Okay, we got that. Okay.
It's a motion, so.
That's correct. That's correct. Any comments from the board? Any comments from the public? Okay. Hearing and seeing none. Roll call, please. Vote.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran.
Aye.
Linda Clifford.
Aye.
David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella.
Aye.
Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I didn't get a chance before the vote, but I would just say thank you very much. I'm very honored and humbled. I have a great passion and great love for this board, what it stands for, the staff, protecting the consumers and the contractors. So thank you all very much.
Well, we see. We see how eager Kevin has jumped in there before I gave my count of the centers. But anyway, that's good. That's
Karen beat
good.
you to it.
She beat me to it. Okay. All right. Next, vice chair. It'll be the same order. Now we proceed to nomination of vice chair. Our committee recommends nomination of Marlo Richardson.
Second.
Are there any nominations from the floor? Are there any public comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I will now close the nomination on Marlo.
Yes, ask Marlo to.
Oh. Marlo, you have the statement?
Less is more.
Grateful and shocked, thank you.
Grateful and shocked.
Okay.
Are you willing?
Okay, I will now close the nomination on that office. Okay, we will now do a roll call vote.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Augie Beltran.
Aye.
Linda Clifford.
Aye.
David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella.
Aye.
Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Nancy Springer.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now for the last office to fill is the board secretary. Our committee recommends nominating Johnny Simpson.
Second.
Okay. Are there any nominations from the floor? All right. Are there any nomination from, any comments from the public? Okay. Hearing and seeing none. Do we have a roll call, please?
Aye.
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 David De La Torre.
Aye.
Susan Granzella.
Aye.
Pastor Herrera.
Aye.
Ed Lang.
Aye.
Mike Layton.
Aye.
Marlo Richardson.
Aye.
Paul Shafino.
Aye.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Very good. Johnny? Johnny, do you accept?
Feel very honored and privileged. Thank you.
Okay. And thank you. And now our new officer, you got the board chair. You have Kevin Albanese. Okay. Vice chair, we have Marlo Richardson. And board secretary is Johnny Simpson. Congratulations to all of you. Okay? Let's give him another hand. After that, Mr. Chair, that ends my report.
Thank you for your due diligence on your,
Thank you.
your committee there, and thank you to David Diaz. That reminds me. Okay, we're going to be circulating a card, so don't everybody leave. It'd be nice if you guys could sign it. We'll talk about what it is in a minute. Tomorrow we meet at 8 in the morning, and that's it with the Arizona Board. Thank you, Paul Shafino, for your service.
Nevada.
Nevada.
What did I say?
Arizona.
Arizona.
Oh, you know, I got Arizona on the brain for some reason.
8.
It's 8.
8.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you all. We stand, yes? You got to help me this last time.
Go into recess. We're going to
Yes.
recess, not adjourn, recess.
Oh, we stand recessed until 8 a.m. Thank you. I'm losing it.
But we need to sign the card, please.
Paul, are you staying for dinner?
His family must be.
What?